3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, to Conversations with Kiahenao. Today we have two special guests for episode 5, I believe. Luis Aguirre and Malik Moten.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, I like to start off, and we talked about this before we even got started, is we love what you're doing here. It's fucking tight, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And definitely excited to have you guys. You guys have a lot of opposing thoughts.
Could say that.
Even though you guys are pretty close. And yeah. So off start, I know you've been getting into rock climbing and
Yeah. For about 2 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you even get into that?
I try to make long stories short, but when I was younger, my dad would frequently take me out on weekends trips to like Shenandoah in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of like off-trail hiking and stuff like that. And Malik knows best. I take him with me all the time. Like if there's a trail, we just don't go that way. You go off the trail.
Yeah.
And that's what I did a lot with my dad. And then I forget, it was maybe 2-3 years ago when Alex Honnold came out with his documentary, Free Solo. I saw him just free solo El Cap and talk about his life climbing, and I was like, that's fucking cool. Let me go try that.
Okay.
And then I got out and just went around Great Falls and started climbing outdoors. Ended up almost fucking dying and like broke my ankle. And then I was like, maybe I should start practicing indoors so that outdoors are easier. And now it's kind of where I'm at, where it's like I found the indoor gym life, and it's pretty fun and just trying to get better at that. I mean, he's been with me too. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Is that something that you think you need to start indoor first? Like,
I mean, there's plenty of people who just climb outdoors, and
is that like really dangerous?
It is, and I think I was just being super reckless the way I was approaching it. Like me, I'm one of those guys who's like, I get fully obsessed in something I do. So like, for example, the climbing, right? And then I also did like Muay Thai. Yeah. I get really deep into something real quick. Well, it'll become my life for like a month, and then sometimes I kind of hop off if I don't like it as much.
Yeah.
But with the climbing thing, I think I like the way I approached it was a little kind of reckless, where I would go out by myself and just climb some pretty sketch stuff, just to see if I could do it. I do recommend you definitely take someone. You start small. Don't go like, if you're doing something where you need ropes, obviously use the right equipment.
Yeah.
I think the way I approached it was a little reckless. But that's to say, like, whether you get started indoors or outdoors. I mean, again, and I've only been climbing for 2 years, so I don't know everything about fucking climbing. I barely know shit. But I do think wherever you start, I think just getting started, it's kind of like I like it more because it's more than just a sport. It's kind of like a lot of things. He does a lot of like jujitsu, and we've done a lot of like combat stuff, sports like Muay Thai and boxing and those kind of things where, and you can kind of implement it in any sport where it becomes more of a lifestyle. And I think that's just a lot more like solidified in climbing, where it's becomes that whole kind of, it becomes more holistic, where you're outdoors and you're climbing these rocks, and you find that appreciation for not only the rocks and the climbing, but then just being outdoors.
Nature.
Right. Nature in general. And then in respect to that, we are just one with nature. So I think ultimately you find respect for yourself, for the world, for others. And again, not everyone finds this in climbing, but that's what I like about it. It's
kind of funny. You mentioned that you like to dive into things fully, and when you become passionate on something, you really like to obsess over it, get really good at it. I noticed that that's something that both of you guys do. And it's funny, even though at times you may have slightly different interests, there's definitely something that you guys have in common. Have you been going into that at all? And you might want to speak into the mic a little.
In terms of like what, like my passions and stuff?
Rock climbing or...
So I've tried it with him. Like I said, both of our interests, like we kind of, a lot of the things we do, they're very similar. Especially starting out, like we were both athletes, but we didn't necessarily play the same sport.
Exactly.
We both did wrestling, but he branched off into soccer. I branched off into football.
Right.
And then now, today, he likes his rock climbing. I like to do martial arts. And for me, it's like just working at something that you enjoy, but there is a level to it, where it's like playing a video game.
Yeah.
You start off on level 1, you go to level 50, you prestige, you keep going up and further. When you don't feel like going, when you don't feel as driven one day, you have to remember the end goal. And if you start something and you have an end goal in mind, you're much more likely to stick with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about the end goal thing. It can also just be your meditation, your passion, whatever.
Right, 100%. So, I completely agree. And I mean, to go off that, like whether you have an end goal or not, I feel like an end goal can be anything, whether you're like he said, if you're playing a game, I want to be Master Prestige 49 by the end of the week, or I want to be a purple belt in 5 years, or I want to be able to climb V5, V6s and bouldering by the end of this, which is kind of like one of my goals and stuff. But and then to touch upon what he said again too, it's not just that kind of end resolution. If your end resolution is just overall to be kind of like sane and happy with yourself and like be happy with just being and being alive, then if that's choking people out or that's climbing walls or that's knitting beautiful hats, like my little sister made me this beautiful hat that she made for Christmas. And like, there's just so many routes you can go. And as long as, like you said, you find like something to aim at. And it's not always like that one thing. It can be like, I just want to be happy. And that can be something to aim at.
Or a good experience.
Right. Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that something that you want to take more seriously? Like start, I don't know. I don't even know what.
Yeah.
Can you, I know there's people that get sponsored. They do it professionally.
Yeah, that'd be fucking cool.
But is there like something that you want to start going to, like, I don't know, mountains and like?
Yeah, I mean, and then again, like I talked about, it kind of ties into like just my upcoming. I've always been outside, so I love being outdoors, and I think it'd be fucking cool to get in a van, live in a van, and just travel or around the states and kind of go to all the state parks, or even go like, I mean, abroad and international, like Patagonia and Argentina, or like there's a lot of climbing in Mexico, or, you know, I'm from El Salvador and I was there about 2 years ago, and, you know, it's an end goal of mine eventually to retire there. And
really,
and there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful land over there. Obviously just not been discovered. There's a lot of poverty over there, but there's a lot to be discovered. And I kind of want to do that too. Go to just random places, find some stuff to climb. But at the same time, it's not like, I think because I dive into these things like head first and I become obsessed with them, and they kind of become an identity in a sense. Although I don't really like to identify with things, especially like hobbies and stuff, because again, no limits, like we were talking about earlier. But that can kind of look like, I get those questions like, okay, so you want to be like professional, get sponsored, and ultimately it's like that'd be cool. I mean, it'd be nice to kind of just climb and get paid to do that, but I don't think that's like my end goal. It's a hobby. I like it. It keeps me healthy. Again, like the lifestyle thing, it keeps me sane. But the same thing went for like, I was one of the guys, I don't know if, was I one of the guys to get you like to Muay Thai?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, like I did a lot of Muay Thai too before I did the climbing. And that was something, again, I dived head into. Like I had done boxing when I was younger. But again, this was right out of COVID. I was still living with my mom, unemployed. So all you had to do was train. Like I didn't have to worry about bills. So I was training like fucking 6 days a week, running 3 days a week. I mean, the guy I was with, who came from Morocco, super guy, Amin Bellafrique, if anyone's wondering, check him out on YouTube. He's an insane fighter. But he's the one who trained me through a lot of the stuff. And that kind of stuff it's the same thing where it's like, I get so developed in something that it kind of becomes everything. So I wouldn't, again, the same way I had people ask me when I was doing the Muay Thai, would you want to be a fighter and stuff? And I was like, nah. The climbing thing, do you want to be? I'm like, sure, but like, I'm not set on that. Because one, I'm not that good of a climber. I like doing it.
Yeah.
Again, that lifestyle thing makes me super healthy, but yeah, I don't think, I feel like there's certain expiration dates on things. Like if you want to be a pro football player, you can't start at 26. You know what I mean?
And to be fair, I think that's 100% right, in the sense of like, even asking questions like that can be a little putting you in like, then why are you doing it?
Well, I'm not trying to come for you.
No, I know.
Or anyone who asked me that stuff. Yeah.
Because even sometimes like people ask that almost in a way that like sounds like, if you're not doing that, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
But in reality, literally
a
healthy lifestyle or having fun.
Outlet.
Like, exactly.
Most people don't have outlets. And I mean, the biggest thing when I hear a question like that, and again, cut me off whenever you guys like, I'm a talker, but when I hear questions like that, where it's like, what is that word? Like, do you want to be in a climate? There's so many things before that you like, how, like, I got to make sure I pay my rent. I've got like to make sure I'm living. I'm not, going out and whether you're fucking up on eating too much, like, just life in general has enough to deal with. And I think, and like I said, I listened to some of your podcasts before. So like what you were talking about with Nora on the third podcast about like having your home kind of established before you can go out and start delegating around the world. Yeah. And we were talking about the philosophy and stuff and books and that. And I think it was from Meditations. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. But it's like a good leader first is a good leader in his household. Yeah. Can delegate himself and make sure his things get done. And then if he has another, has the power to not only keep his shit in balance, but then keep theirs and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I think before I kind of like, I think we're all still relatively young, still figuring out like what it is even to be alive in a sense, especially nowadays is kind of just very, I think, confusing. So I think ultimately whenever I hear questions about like, what do you want to do in the future? It's like, I just want to make sure I wake up like
healthy.
happy,
yeah.
you know, and wanting to get out of bed and go with my life. So yeah,
I heard this one thing somebody said. Really, people look at their 20s like, oh, you're 25, 26, 27. And they think, oh, you're old now. Yeah. And it's like in reality, like,
nah, man.
20s when you, 20s like a baby adult, like you're at 0.
It's true.
And like
a baby adult.
Yeah, and they're like 22, like you're 2 years old, 23, 3 years old.
Yeah, 5, so on and so forth.
Facts.
Well, I don't know what you think about this, and you guys can jump in on it too. When this was it wasn't a podcast I was listening to, but I was hearing Dwight Schrute. You guys, I don't know his real name, but.
Also, feel free to move this if you need to.
Yeah. Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was listening to him talk, and he was talking about, you know, his success and everything. And he was talking about, you know, living in his 20s. And he talks about how the 20s are really just for you to fucking try and 30 things, fuck up, and figure out, oh, these are 2 things I like.
Yeah.
Because like you were talking about, everyone's like, oh, we're getting old. You got to get a house, got to have that nice
kids,
job,
wife,
whatever the fuck you want. That notion is so like ingrained in our minds. You kind of can't think out of the box. And then when you do start to think out to the box and then you're going against the current, everyone's like, well, why aren't you settling down? Or why are you still like, all right, like the climbing thing, like, so you just do it for fun? Like, how much is the membership? Are you wasting? And you know, it gets a lot of stuff, but it's like, you have to remember, like, it's not all about that. Like, as long as you're enjoying yourself, man.
That's an interesting topic that you bring up.
And it's true. So like the 20s, just enjoy yourself, fuck up, fail, and figure out what it is you don't like so that you know what you do like.
Mm-hmm. And to add on to that, like with today's, like what you see in today's like society, it's a lot of mental health cases of like depression, people not knowing what they want to do, where they want to be, and everyone just feels it's kind of like a gloom that hangs over a lot of people in this day and age, especially young people.
Like a rain cloud.
It's very, very, consistent, and you can see it in like anyone you talk to. People have problems, and everyone goes through stuff. But I think it's important that you said like, it's about finding your niche. If you're sitting around and you're like, I'm depressed, if you focus on your depression, it's going to grow. Like, it's going to become you.
Yeah.
So you have to get out, experience. It's hard. It's rough. It doesn't feel good. It feels very uncomfortable. But the more you explore with whatever it is in life, whether you're alone, and a lot of people are afraid to go out alone too. I find that funny. Like, go out to that bar by yourself.
Watch a movie alone.
Do that activity by yourself. Your friend doesn't want to join you, so you're like, oh, well, I don't want to do it because my friend's not going to go with me. Go out and do it yourself, man.
Have you guys, from what you're saying, I'm understanding that you have, but have y'all, like, gone to the movies by yourself, eat by yourself? Like,
I've gone out to eat by myself a couple times.
I do it quite a lot. Yeah.
It's honestly a really unique experience.
It's freeing, man.
It is.
It's super freeing because
really
you're like... Well, it also kind of like helps you learn more about yourself. You're like, I'm here because I want to be here. And then you start to feel like, why? But I don't want to be here. Okay, now I know I don't like this. When in certain places you go with a group of friends or that one friend because of them.
Yeah.
And then you start to realize like, okay, now I'm like kind of making decisions based on other people's, validations or whatever it may be. I'm not hating on anyone, but like, it allows you to be like, you know what? I actually like this fucking movie. I didn't think that, like, if I brought my boy here, he'd probably judge the hell out of me. Like, I love The Notebook.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Interesting topic,
it's true though, because you like, I think, and I was talking about with Mahatam earlier, and we might go on a huge tangent here, but personality is super like malleable. It's like, it's not like this table's sturdy. It does not. This table, you can't move it into a chair. I can't turn it into whatever.
It's not water.
But exactly. But your personality. It was similar to water. I compared it to like an animal cell and a plant cell. Like that animal cell has that barrier and it won't, but the plant cells, it moves and it's that, I forget what it's called and I'm not fucking chemist or biologist, but they're definitely, the membrane things can penetrate a cell membrane.
Wall?
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's on the animal cell and then the plant cell has something that's actually, but anyways, it gets to my point of saying like when you go out somewhere or when you're around people, the personality that you have is always changing. Like the way I act and the way I speak in front of like, say, my aunt, my grandma, and my sister will be completely different the way I would address you guys and talk to you guys, or my bosses and my managers. You know what I mean? And that's the same thing with kind of as you're growing and going forever. It's like you're always changing.
Yeah, you're naturally
you can't be stagnant.
You're naturally going to be a lot more vulgar with your grandma.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, my grandma, man.
It makes sense. I would notice, or I heard this thing one time. I said, if you can do that, like the power of being alone, you can master anything.
And I hate to like just keep talking and again, go on if add anything you want on top of my stuff, but COVID, blessing and a curse. A lot of people went down, a lot of crazy stuff. But for me, again, it was really good for me. I had the time. I was unemployed. I lived with my mom. I didn't have to pay any rent. So I stayed a lot of time alone by myself. And that's where I got deep into like that solitude got me into things like the meditation, listening just to more podcasts and TED Talks. I was big into TED Talks in the beginning of the pandemic. Just something to keep me stimulated. And I think, and that's why I have this tattoo here on my wrist about the tree and the brain and stuff, is like, you and it ties into that depression thing, into what Nora was saying on that podcast, is like, depression is, I think nowadays we can kind of agree, it's almost like a luxury. Where like, back in the day, you're depressed, right? You're fucking, you're living in your hunter-gatherer group, your wife just died.
Oh, with the label. Like, you call it depressed now. Back then, they'd be like, stop being a bitch.
Well, right. So, or not even just being a bitch. It's like, you have to keep moving. I don't like using that word, being a bitch. But you life doesn't stop for you. Like, the sun comes up, it goes down, and the moon will rise, no matter with or without you. So, like Nora was saying, in some, I think, culture, depending on the culture you have, like, parents will come into the room and be like, you can't do this. You're killing yourself. You're depressed. Clearly, like, I get you're sad, but there's a healthier way to move about this. And I think just overall, kind of figuring out who you are, finding your niche, going out and do those things by yourself and figuring out what it is you like. You have to be like open. You can't be closed-minded, and you can't like, and that's the tough part, is when you're always hanging around, mainly like used to being around people, like kind of influencing your ideas. You never have a true idea yourself, or identity if you want to get to the extreme, but you never really have a true idea yourself. So everything is like, well, there's no one making it. Like, what do I do now? Like, I pleased him, I pleased her, and then you just completely forget about yourself. But you've got to always keep that in mind, is that keep yourself learning things, try new things, suck at it, so that you can find out what it is you get. Yeah.
You guys, I would definitely, I don't know if you put yourself in this category, but I definitely put both of you in like maybe adrenaline junkies in a positive way. Like, you guys,
well, in certain lights, because like I'll do some climbing stuff and he'll just shy away. He'll be like, there's no way I'm doing that.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie,
it's certain but he'll be on a motorcycle and I'm like, I can't do that.
Some of the stories that some of our friends have told us about things that you made them climb and things like that, I 100% will tell you right now, because I want to go one of these days, right?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
If you take me in something where it is actually dangerous, I'm turning back.
No, and it's funny because like, I think these guys are just a tad bit hyperbolic in my sense, because we'll go off trail, right?
I gotta judge for myself,
right? And I think you'll come to the same conclusion as I have. It's when I start, like, we'll do some, and I'll see like this fat rock, bunch of random shit on it. I'm like, let's clean it off and let me climb it, and they'll just watch me climb it and like come close to dying. And then I think that's when they're like, that's what he's making us do. Yeah. This guy's freaking insane. You know what I mean? So then, but yeah, I'll never make them do anything they're super uncomfortable with. Like, there's times where he's like, I'm going this way, you can go that way. And I'm like, all right, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't really care. You can do that too. I just think it's more fun going this way. Yeah. So no, I don't like, I think it's funny because whoever's heard about it is definitely like, no, don't go with it. Yeah. But it's like, nah, don't be scared. I'm a chill guy. It's mostly just talking and eating Cliff Bars.
Cliff Bars. All right.
I always got my Cliff Bars.
You just got a motorcycle, right?
I did just get a motorcycle. I got a Suzuki GSX-R 600.
How's that?
A lot of numbers, folks.
Yeah, right. How's that experience?
It was awesome, man. I wanted a motorcycle since I was like a little itty bitty kid, and just got a new job, and I was like, I got the money, so let me go ahead and buy one. And it is a amazing experience. It is dangerous, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's like one of those things where it's like you just get this sense of freedom that you can't get like anywhere else. It's like kind of being in like a society of its own. You like wave at other bikers who go by, but
like a trucker almost.
You also feel something that I've noticed that is so interesting about it is when you're at your stop signs or whatever, you're chilling on the bike, you are so exposed to the world. And I've noticed so many interactions with people just by being like outside of that car. Like when everyone's in their car, they're almost like they're in that little bubble.
You're oblivious to a lot of things that you have to pay attention to when you're riding a motorcycle.
Exactly. Well, not just the riding part. That's the scary part, but just like sitting at a stop sign, the bike's not moving. I'm like just sitting around. I've had conversations with people. I've talked to people. I've had like waves, just things that don't usually happen when you're on a car. And it's just like funny, like you feel
it's a whole different experience.
It's just a whole different experience, man.
It's actually almost like a way of life. To pretext that I had a motorcycle beforehand, which I had for a couple of years before I wrecked, and it wasn't my fault actually. Some car.
That's what they all say.
No, it really wasn't. Some car cut me off. I was going like 60.
Yeah.
On probably on Little River, I think. And I was going 60, 65, and this car last second turns left right in front of me, super slow. I swear, if you saw it, it looked like he wanted to like hit me or something like that. Yeah. I ended up like flying over his car. Oh. I was just wearing a helmet. It was like middle summer, and I was wearing like just like a regular soccer jersey.
Shit.
Like
damn.
And I land on my head and my right shoulder, and I slide for like 50 feet. And there was some people right in front of the car dealership that was like right in front of the street. And somebody says, I was wearing a Columbia jersey, right? You know, the bright yellow. Yeah. And somebody said they just saw this like yellow object flying in the air, and they're like, yeah, and everybody ran outside. They called the ambulance.
It's a bird. It's a plane.
Yeah.
It's Chris Hanoi.
Yeah, I remember when you had that bike, and I was like, oh, what happened to it? And then you were like, I sold it, and you were like, I had some near-death experience like shit.
That's crazy, man. I wouldn't like... Just watching that stuff on film has taken me off. Like, I'm good on a bicycle.
Yeah.
I'll ride a bike for a minute, but I wouldn't get on a motorcycle.
That's funny that you say that.
You'd love it. You'd honestly like. I do want to get back to it, and so I was selling that motorcycle, and at the time, like I was willing to let it go for like, I forget how much, but like not much. And what ended up happening, like I was finding a hard time to find buyers. And I ended up wrecking it and getting like way more money than I was willing to sell it for. Okay. So it ended up being a good thing, I guess. Yeah. But ever since then, I've been trying to get back into it. I'm trying to be a little smarter and with my money and wait a little longer. And maybe I'll be a little more mature in 5 years and maybe not do as many reckless things on the motorcycle. But it is fun. It's a completely different experience that definitely has changed the way I look at life, even like because you start to see every little thing as like a little adventure. Like you start, let's say you're going to the grocery store, you're going here, you're going over there, right?
Yeah, right to 7-Eleven's a little more exciting.
Well, no, but it's like then you come across another motorcycle, or you run into a certain type of traffic that is fun to weave through. Like, not that. Maybe it's not like the most like
we definitely don't recommend that for you out there, guys.
No. But not that I ever did that or anything like of that nature, right? But I've heard stories of that.
Yeah.
But it's like
I've seen a few movies.
And then before you know it, you start like racing with somebody, you start doing some fun stuff, and then you completely forgot where you were going. Yeah. And you've been driving for like 30 minutes and you're like, oh, what the fuck?
And that's like $1 worth of gas right there.
I don't even have like the phone mount on because I just like I felt like the phone on it. It's another form of like digital distraction that you have. Like everyone, when you look at their cars, they're on their phone. On the bike, man, I when you get to a stop, I'm like looking around. I'm like seeing my surroundings. I'll have a conversation every once in a while. Like it's so much more personal. Like and you're just interacting with the world. And I feel like that in its like own sense is like so different. Which is why it's so different, because when you're on your car, you're in your phone. You almost like it's a complete distraction from reality that's happening around you. You're on a road. Yeah. You're driving a car.
No, it's true.
When you're on the motorcycle, man, everything is just that's your reality right now. And the interactions are so much more personal. It kind of feels like a blast from the past in a way, if you know what I mean. Like from a time when like people weren't really always on their phone. People weren't always so distracted, and that's what it feels like. And you can witness it too. Like you witness both sides. I witness the people on their phones, and I witness the people I'm having the conversation.
That's almost as like you can kind of like tie that into like going out by yourself. It's just a whole nother game, when you get out there where you're not like where it's really up to you like to make conversations with individuals. If that's what some people don't like to talk to other people, but
my pops, he used to send me like when I had the motorcycle, every single day he used to send me videos of people dying on motorcycles of like really bad accidents.
That's fucking
right. And but the reason in his mind, which I fully see it, is like making me aware of situations to be careful.
The reality.
Exactly.
The reality of it.
Dude, it could be something as simple as like you're riding behind a truck and too close. Oh, there's a wheel. The truck goes over the wheel. Yeah. Like obviously this is not gonna be a problem. He goes right over the middle. You're right behind him in the middle. Yeah. You just last second see the wheel, run into it. You're dead.
Yeah.
That's why you're supposed to ride behind one of the wheels of a truck
instead of the back of it.
Exactly, because if cars will go right over the middle of something, you got to be careful. They might go over something and you see it last second, you don't even get a chance to swerve it.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
Same thing. There's so many different scenarios where you end up crashing, and it really wasn't your fault. But if you didn't put yourself in that situation, maybe you would have avoided it.
Yeah. To add on to what you just said, I'm glad that your dad did that, because you said you watch motorcycle accidents and you're like, hell no.
Yeah.
I watch them and I'm like, all right, let's not do that. Dude, I watch them and let's see what I can change. And that being said, not everything is in your control.
No,
right, never.
Some things are really no.
Yeah, walking down the street, man.
Even literally some things such as just mechanical failure of like your chain breaks, or I don't know if you probably has a chain.
Yeah,
mine had a chassis, but a chain breaks, your bike locks up, or anything. And if you're going at 80, 90 miles an hour, which on a motorcycle really is not fast at all.
But it's fast. It's terminal
fast.
Velocity.
Exactly. It's fast for a body to be moving that fast. But on the motorcycle, it doesn't feel fast.
Oh, of course.
You know what's funny about that? Knowing and doing stuff like that for, I don't know, like bikes are definitely significantly cheaper than cars, right? And for what you could get, like what's equivalent, like let's say to car, like let's say an M3 or like some crazy car, an AMG Mercedes. For you to get that in a motorcycle is way cheaper, right? It makes you realize like how significantly like more advanced like I don't want to say motorcycle technology is, in the sense of like you can get way more performance for your money than you can in a car, and a much cheaper. Like a solid bike, it really won't break down at all.
It really won't. Yeah.
No, with good maintenance, I would assume.
Yeah, of course. But like you get like a solid Yamaha, like get a nice R6, get an R1, something like that. That stuff doesn't really break down unless you like crash it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing where me and him kind of differ is like definitely adrenaline junkies, but with just in general, like anything like motor vehicles, I was never into that stuff. Like my cousins, one of my other cousins would play like Need for Speed and stuff like that, and like all that racing. And I don't know. I never really like cars, motorcycles. Like I drive a Hyundai Elantra. Like if it was a Toyota Camry, I would still like. I don't really have.
See, that's one of the big
much
things.
Of an interest in those kind of, at least in that world.
That's one of the big things, reasons why I'm kind of staying away from it now, because I know how much fun it is, but at the same time, like you could literally be doing everything right, driving super safe, not doing anything reckless, and at the end of the day, a car loses control. Somebody's on the phone, they just don't see you or whatever, and completely leave you like paralyzed, dead.
It goes with a lot of things, man. I mean, you could be walking the street, someone could again lose control and
hit
you while you're walking. You can, and I mean, get back into like combat sports, like with, and this is one of the reasons I stopped. Like something about Malik knows for sure is like you can be sparring with some new guy in training, and he can go a little too hard because he doesn't know again how to control himself, and he just wants to be alpha male. And you can break a shin, you can break a finger, you can get concussed. A lot of like. It's not just bikes. So, like, I don't think that should, like, scare people from getting on bikes and stuff. And it's never really, like, scared me. It's just, like, I don't have the urge enough to kind of ride a bike. But
exactly.
I could definitely assume it's fun as hell.
Yeah.
I love going fast on a bike. So I could imagine on a motorcycle.
I think that what you just brought up is another, like, interesting fact. Like, I feel like this podcast is going to go back to, like, the building blocks of having, like, a good life. You know what I mean?
Oh, always, yeah.
And what you just
said,
we'll
just make sure that's our title.
Yeah,
good life podcast.
You could say that, like, foundations of life or something like that.
Right, yeah.
But, it's funny that you say that, because you just said you don't have the urge to do it, but in everyday life, there is a chance for risk. Simply being alive
100%.
has you at risk of death.
Bro, even you being in the crib, like you could be in the house, right? And a tree falls right on your crib, right where you're sleeping, right where you're laying at, and supposedly the most safe place for you to be at home.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Exactly.
And what will people say? It was a 1 in a million chance. I could be riding my motorcycle that day, doing the craziest thing I could possibly do, and you could be dead from staying at home.
Yeah, man.
You have to live your life, the life that you want to live. Whatever makes you excited, whatever gets you going, whatever keeps you up at night, any excitement that you have, experience it, go out, live it, because I promise you are not going to be here forever.
Yeah, definitely. I think that should be the new American dream. It's like enjoy yourself. Make everything you can out of your life. Just don't take anything away from anyone else. Yeah. I mean, as long as you respect other life and other people, like, why not do whatever you want? And that's the biggest thing when people ask, like, we don't want to get too political or anything, but they ask about your views on stuff. I'm like, dude, I really could care less about anything as long as, one, you're taking care of yourself, your family, your loved ones. I'm doing the same. You're not an asshole to me. I'm not an asshole to you.
Yeah.
just being humane. You know what I mean? Just do what you want and be happy with it.
Have you guys always had these mentalities on, I guess, on being happy and like your ideal life?
You can go first if you want.
Not at all. Growing up was kind of weird for me because I had a dad who was kind of like in, kind of out. Like I didn't see him too often. I'm not like a fatherless child.
Right.
I never had like a very super active dad when I was younger. When I got up into like high school, it became more active. But going up through elementary school, middle school, like I had a lot of family drama, and I was an only child too. So, seeing that and experiencing all the trauma, I guess you would call it, from family drama.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff gets dumped on you, especially when you're the only person for
an adult to kind of
an adult to dump on for real.
And to be a child with adult problems on your chest is not a good thing.
No.
And I would say I grew up like kind of like secluded and a little bit just a lone wolf kind of.
Yeah, I would agree. So, and I think might be why we like get along so well, been friends for so long. Is I definitely good. Oh, yeah. I was wouldn't say I was the one that approached him and made him be my friend or anything, but like. Yeah. I completely grew up a little opposite. I wasn't like, it wasn't rainbows and sunshine, you know what I mean? But I grew up with, I had my dad, stepdad, my mom. So I had figures and stuff. And I think I'm blessed enough to say that I had people in my life who had the true intent to like actually care for me and like want good for me in the future. So I didn't like to answer your original question. I didn't always have this kind of mentality. It's been formed and it's still forming throughout the years, and it will still form until I'm dead. But, no, I think I'm also lucky not only just to have people who cared about me, but to also have people who, didn't care, because you can learn from that. And you can also like, one big thing I definitely like to live off is there's lots of mistakes to make in life and there's a lot to learn, but it's a lot easier when you can learn from someone else's mistake. Watch someone go through something super hard. It's like, I'm watching family stuff like, I don't want to get into crack, or I don't want to get into this, or like maybe I shouldn't go down that road, or maybe I shouldn't make, I shouldn't make women my priority in life, because it's the same thing. It's like, you can get lost in the sauce, and whether that sauce is alcohol, women, money, lifting. I mean, it goes crazy, man. You can get lost in the sauce in any sort of direction. So, I mean, the biggest thing I think is, and I think also kind of going all over the place, but like having real solid friends. I mean, we were really close in middle school and stuff, like with Otman, and then like I met him in middle school freshman year, but Mahatim and Dog, and we're also in Brahim and a lot of guys. But that's what I'm saying. I met you in high school, but I knew a lot of them in middle school and elementary. And having not only friends, but people in your life to tell you how it is. Like, you shouldn't have any yes men around you. I think those are people definitely like, and again, not hating, but try to stay away from that. You want people who are always going to make sure, like, when you're messing up, they'll call you out. Or when you're like, feeling down, they'll ask you what's wrong and like sit there and listen. Because like ultimately, just end of the day, you can't go through life alone. And you need others, you need support, you need community. And again, I was, like I said, happy that I could have that when I was young, so I can realize the importance and the understanding of it. And then, meet new people and realize like, oh, not everyone has this. So I shouldn't be ignorant and think that everyone is a kind person and really likes me. Like, you have to also be able to put yourself in that realistic mindset and take the world for what it is. Like, I think it was DMX or someone was like, if I see a snake,
I trust it to be a snake.
Right. I'm going to make sure, I know the snake's going to bite. If it's a dog, I know I can pet, whatever it may be. But you have to be able to, like, even if you love the person, even if you love them to death, that's the one. But they're clearly either toxic or don't really care about you. You have to really be able to, like.
I think he was talking about awareness, and he was saying, like, do you fear of trusting the wrong person? He's like, no, because I trust myself. He's like, and if you're really aware and you see a snake, trust it to be a snake. If you see a rat, trust it to be a rat. Dog to be a dog. And it's just listen to people's actions.
Well, it's like, I think this is really cool, but I forgot where I heard this from, but you have one mouth and two ears for a reason. One mouth, two eyes for a reason. Shut up. When you're around people for the first time, listen to how they introduce themselves. Listen to how they speak about themselves, about their friends, about their family. Look at how they hold themselves. Can they keep eye contact? Are they, giving good body language? And this is not to like, they don't know how to speak proper English and they're not like intellectually. No, they're actually like kind of connecting to you on a human level. Like there's a lot of times where I have conversations nowadays where it's like not even eye contact. Like clearly you're not engaged in the conversation. It's like, why are we doing this? You know what I mean? And it's tough, but yeah, I kind of forgot where I was going with that. But
so,
the awareness thing.
Yeah, I like your guys' mentality on
examine. Gotta always be observing. Sorry.
Yeah. So I like the mentality you guys have towards life and happiness and trying new things, always like hobbies and this and that. Do you think, and again, we talked about like if you guys were like this when you were younger, but do you think that's something that could be taught to you, or is that something that you kind of have to learn yourself?
I would definitely say both, but go ahead.
Yeah, I would say it's both. It can be both.
Yeah, I think it ultimately always is both.
But
I think sometimes more than another. But
I think on another level, you have to. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink.
Period.
A lot of people drown in whatever problems that they're having, whether it be pain, whatever, loss of focus, and a lot of this just turns into pain because that's the real reason why people go to the bar and drown their sorrows. Some people turn their pain into power, and some people drown in it. So, you know.
It's beautiful, man. I mean, it reminds me of a quote where it's like, you know, a boat doesn't sink because of all the water around it. It sinks because of the water that it allows in the boat, and that allows it to sink. And like we were talking about getting lost in the sauce, I think when you have a good understanding of who you are at a young age and were able and had the opportunity to be in that solitude for enough time to where you can grow and be your own person without having to rely on others. I mean, obviously, when you're 18, you're still young, but I think as we're getting older, it's becoming more apparent and more real, so you have to do it. Second, having, again, those outlets so you don't have to drown, so you can find a way to get the water out of your ship. And then third, having those people in your life who can, again, support you through that, because you can't always do it alone, and to keep you in check whenever you're off the rails, man. I mean, like, it's another tangent, but life, we make it super complicated. It's so simple, man.
Facts.
It's really simple, and I really like this movie. I don't know if you guys have watched it, Everything Everywhere All at Once, but there's this one scene where
I just saw that. Actually.
It's a really good one. There's one scene, my favorite scene is the rock scene, where I'm gonna butcher it all, but they end up being rocks, and she talks about how like I wish I could just be this rock forever because you're just being and just sitting there and just existing. And I think again with what society is nowadays, there's so much more to life because we have to get that 401k, get the benefits. But ultimately, I feel like if you focus on what truly matters, the rest kind of follows and trickles into place and will guide you there as long as you're staying true to your route. And it's not easy. I mean,
I like that.
I have days where I'm like, dude, I really don't want to wake up.
Yeah.
I don't want to go climb. I'm feeling this. Or maybe I shouldn't run today. I've been really working hard at the gym. Or maybe, you know, like I've deserved it. Let me go get a couple of McChickens or something. But, you know, it's also that same mentality that will get you that water in the boat and get you drowning. So you got to be able to. I compare it super well. It's like I forgot where I get this from, but it's from either Aztecs, Maya, something like that. They were so obsessed with the jaguar because when you go any feline, tiger, lion, jaguar, when you go and watch them hunt, even like a house cat, when they're getting like little mice, like once they've got the prey in sight and they're stalking, like so zeroed in and aware and focused on that one thing, and like if it like turns and moves and looks at it, doesn't fucking move an inch. And as soon as it starts to move away, it'll move with it and go right with it. And the same way they apply that is the same way you should like carry yourself. And you know, given the way we've evolved, there's the oldest part of your brain, go back to reptilian brain, keeps control of your, you know, circadian rhythm and like body temperature and stuff like that, simple things. And then you have the monkey brain, and then what we have that separates us from everything else is that frontal lobe. So you kind of have so many things going on all at once, and that frontal lobe is what reasoning is and intellect is and wisdom, and what decides, okay, this is probably isn't good for me in 5 years compared to yes, it is good for me in 5 years. And then you have the monkey brain that's always, it's just those automatic thoughts that come up to your head, whether it's wanting to drink, wanting to bone, wanting to smoke, wanting to do whatever the hell you want to do. It's those what's the word? You know, those thoughts that come where you're just like, I gotta act on it. But you have to kind of act like that jaguar in that sense, where you're always on yourself, like watching those moves, like, like why am I doing this? Is it because I want to, or am I giving in to this urge, or whatever it may be? And that, I think like that's helped me build that mentality we were talking about. Like you did I have it as a kid? No, I think with a lot of things I've learned throughout the years, like kind of that self-discipline in a sense, has brought me that mentality.
So you guys mentioned a lot about the theme of knowing yourself, knowing who you are, spending that time alone, finding who who you are, what you value, what you love.
Sure.
How do you find that? Like, how did you guys go about that?
I'll let you speak on this.
I guess like two ways to answer that question. I think the journey never ends because you're constantly growing and becoming someone new every day, every month, every year, every second. So you have to strap in and stay on for the long run. And second, it's one of those things where you have to be put in situations. And it's ultimately like you really have, unfortunately, like no say. Like I wouldn't like I was up in heaven like I want to be born into this family. Make sure my mom is who my mom is now, and this is gonna be my dad. Like you don't have the choice. You're born into this world, and you're born into it. And if you're born in here in McLean, Virginia, and you've got a nice house, probably pretty good. But there's some people who are born in Peru who are living in a trash can, it's wherever it may be. So you don't really have a choice. And I think the more you kind of I think ultimately to answer your question is keeping an open mind. And again, you don't really have control of that as you're going over. I think the developmental years in your life are super. So like, unfortunately, some people don't get that, and they'll eventually learn it down the road. But open-mindedness, I think, is one of the big keys is of always kind of like being able to like come to that conclusion. Who am I? What do I love? What do I really like? Because again, open mind, questioning everything. You're never really like stuck on one thing. You're never really identifying with anything.
Yeah.
Don't want to limit yourself.
Ask your question one more time. The how do you find what you
want? How do you find how do you go about finding this is what I want, this is who I am?
Oh, well, I would say that all these are opinions. You see a lot of like bigger podcasts and everything, and you get a person who's made it. They've done whatever it is they're good at. They've reached the pinnacle of that point, and that's why they're being brought on the show. We are still growing. We are still finding our niche. We are still finding our place in the world. But I'm pretty confident to say we're on a good path at the moment.
100%.
I agree, and it's almost something super biased to say because I'm sure everyone thinks, I'm sure a lot of people that aren't think that. Like that's just like the idea that's like says like everyone when we were younger, everyone said they're gonna be rich. Like everyone said, when I grow up, I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna have so much money. I'm gonna have this, blah blah. I'm gonna be successful.
Look back at it now, man.
Look at the numbers. Somebody's lying.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's lying. Somebody isn't going to be there.
Show me your work.
That's a good point.
How'd you get there?
We live in. I'm not getting political. We live in a capitalist society, and the capitalist society says you want this, this, and that, and you go out and get this, this, and that. Well, look at yourself where you are now, and tell yourself, are you happy? A lot of people will say no. Now ask yourself this question: could you be happy? A lot of people could probably say yes.
Yeah. But what follows that?
What follows that is you need to narrow down what you want. Everyone can just live in this state of want. It's literally a human instinct where you want more money, more. You look at a billionaire. He's a billionaire, and you probably say, well, if I was a billionaire, why would I still be working? Why would I do anything? Because I'm a billionaire. I can do whatever I want, right? That's true. And what do billionaires do? They get more money. They get more money.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a human. It's what is it? It's one of the sins, greed.
Almost one of those 7 sins. But I think it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. So I have a thought on that. So I notice a lot of people that have like let's say billionaires, right? And they're like, why do they still keep trying to make more money? I don't know how you feel about this, but I think a lot of them are like they created something that like helps so many people that a lot of people are using. And they just want to keep making it greater, help more people. And that naturally just means them accumulating more
I think
money.
You're right, man, 100%. Like there's definitely those people who are doing it for the right reason. And they're not like, I just want to be filthy
exactly,
rich.
I
agree.
And I want to hoard all the money.
That's a great. But I also do feel like at the end of the day, Monopoly, the game, has rules.
Yes.
The same way our capitalistic society has rules as well. And the way the rules are played at the moment can be unfair. When I get too political again, but it's like there's a lot more they could be doing. Certain instances, not everyone, with all that money they're making, like paying staff better, or I mean a bunch of things, giving in back to the community. I mean, like for example, Nike's great. I love their stuff. I mean, I'm wearing their shoes right now, but it's like, how much do they make? And they've worked hard for it. I'm sure it started, like we were talking about before this, every kind of business had to start somewhere. Someone was doing it themselves, and it worked, and it made this huge empire. But at a certain point, you got to start giving back. And at a certain point, I don't think like, and this goes into what else I was trying to say, but I feel like it doesn't, like you making this amazing product. Great, you're helping the world, but like that doesn't justify you having millions while someone is suffering.
So you guys ever heard?
But it's not that person's fault. I don't want to make it seem like I'm blaming the rich.
No,
for
no,
it, you
no.
know what I mean?
And I think a lot of, so I've conflicting thoughts about this, and not to get political or nothing like that. Like, you know, like
Yes, we're getting there.
You know, you ever heard of like what is it? Universal. What? Where they pay people no matter what.
Universal income?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Or
that's what I thought he was getting at.
Yeah, you know, like pretty much certain minimum wages and all that.
Yeah.
Like even if you look at like what Jeff Bezos has done, he pretty much he made the minimum wage at Amazon. I think it's 18 or 20, something like that, which is higher than what they were proposing.
But you saw those working conditions in their strikes.
I wasn't aware. I don't keep up with it.
See, I don't know, but like even like
there's a lot of.
I think they have healthcare for like for everybody or something. They did something like that, and they were like, he pretty much did what was being proposed, and he did it better supposedly. Than what was being proposed.
Right.
Which is just a counter thought to the idea that like, oh, like greedy this, greedy that, like this is the only way to achieve that. Like, again, like not to get political, I think there's so many different ways of looking at this. It's just the angle that you
choose to look at it.
Yeah,
no, I agree. And like
in the same angle, or in the same way, you can also say like how you're saying there's so many more things that like billionaires and people like that could be doing with their money to help people. There's also so many more things that regular people could be doing to try to get out of there, but they don't.
100%. Because I mean, like
they just have their regular job.
Well, you watch TV.
Home.
I mean, we're kind of programmed to spend.
It's easy to get stuck in the rat race.
Buy. And that's what I'm saying. Like we get into like what, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit sooner, where he talked about it's almost like kind of human nature.
Yeah.
That one of the 7 sins is where greed. But I also ultimately think that I did a lot in like with the lockdowns and everything, a lot of time to myself, did a lot of reading and things like that, and I try to keep up with it. But I got into Buddhism, and in there they talk about, and most people know, it's the desire is the root of all suffering. And what he's saying is just that want for more. Like you give some guy $5, he realizes, oh man, if I can get 10, if I can get 15, 20, and it just keeps going until he just is dead. And I think the worst part is that not everyone fits in that mold of like becoming successful in the respect of accumulating a lot of possessions, money, things. Yeah. And most people won't either. So like, that's where we kind of have to get realistic, where it's like, I think, like you said, there's a lot of things more people on the day-to-day an average Joe could be doing to get himself out of the rut of being poor or being, changled down by these financial burdens and whatever it may be. And I think one of those things are, again, really diving into the solitude. You can talk about like getting into minimalism and things like that. There's a lot of routes. And I think that's one thing I also got into with the COVID and all that stuff. It's just like, why do I have all this shit? Like, I don't even like, I wear like 3 shirts in a month. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really like, why do I have all this stuff? I don't need it. And it's only been like, I mean, that's all I know is everyone knows is like, new school year, you get a new fit, new brand, shoes, and all that stuff. This brand or anything. I mean, like, you can even talk. I relate it to like the gym world too. Like as soon as you go in, everyone's got their Gymshark, their Beats, and it's like a whole thing where if you're not kind of like on that, like, why are you at the gym? It's always like kind of like turning the gym into like a fashion show in a sense, and that stuff is what kind of gets me. Is like you should be doing things.
Find happiness beyond the materialistic things. So
or beyond the simple label of what happy is. I mean, you can go into like what is even being happy. Like should we be even searching for happiness? Because happiness is one of those things where it comes or it goes just as quickly as it comes. Like when you're thinking like, oh, if I could just get that fucking Mustang 2022 red interior, I'll be happy. And then 5 years later, that Mustang becomes the old car you had before, and now there's another Mustang you want.
Yeah.
You get a girlfriend, she's pretty, all this, and then there's another prettier girl.
Yeah,
oh
that's
my
that's
damn!
A really
and you
thing.
just keep going into these things where it's like it goes as quick as it comes. So you should not be searching for happiness because it's not those things. And that's one other thing I learned through the Buddhism stuff, where it's like
maybe I don't think like and this may be your opinion. Maybe I don't think we should be putting happiness on that, Because I don't think happiness is dependent on that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is, what do we define as happiness nowadays? And most people are going to define it as a good feeling, what we can call a dopamine rush. I mean, those dopamine rushes aren't truly like,
they're not
they
authentic.
can at the moment feel, well, they're authentic because it's literally going on in your head. It's real. But at the same time, it's like, it's not going to last, and it's not something you should be holding on to. It's like thinking if you drink, you're going to be drunk forever. Like, no, you can't be drunk
It's
forever.
a short term.
Like happiness is just like a high. What you should be looking for is what they call it in Buddhism is the middle passage. You know, life is, you're low and you're up, and you're sad and you're happy. And that's going on. That's life. You can't do anything about it. But what you can choose to do is travel right in the middle of all that and just keep that same mentality. That
what's in the middle? Face. Peace?
Yeah, just a piece of not having an initial reaction. Like someone, I just moved into my apartment like 3 months ago. Nice place. He's been there. The first month I moved in, some guy the parking lot's a little tight. So he was leaving, big truck. And as he was getting out, his back rim got stuck on the bumper of my car and just ripped it off and drove off. And, you know, I could have chose to be like, well, fuck that. And my life is shit. And why am I here and this? And I could have chased that guy's car down. Could have get.
You saw it happening?
I heard it. It was really early in the morning. And I was like, that sounded bad.
That
and there
sounds
was
like my bumper.
No, I didn't think it was my car. There was a car alarm going off. I was like, someone should turn that off. And I grabbed my key and it was like, oh, well, I'll be damned. And then, you know, but what I'm saying is I could have chose to just angry. Lash out on anyone. But it's not, it happens. Yeah. Like that's life. It's like God didn't damn me. There wasn't no karma that came back to me. Like it's just shit just happens. So you have to live in that. And then at the same time, I get a bonus at my job. They pay me $20,000 more a year. Could be a good thing, but just keep doing things like you normally do. Don't let that high pull you up, and don't let that low pull you down. Stay right in that middle. And I think of life, why I don't choose to chase happiness anymore either, is because it's just misleading. You look at life as like being on a balance board, dude. Like you have to maintain it, and the more difficult, the older you get, the more responsibilities you have. It's like you're on a balance board. Now you're juggling fucking chainsaws. You know, it gets just trickier and trickier. And when you fall, you fall. But life doesn't stop. It's up to you to get the board back, get the chainsaws going, and keep your balance again, and go back and keep moving. And then ultimately, that's all you can do. Like there's no other way. We're here and we go. You know, you have to enjoy it. And if that enjoyment is just being satisfied with what happens, because ultimately that's all you can do. Like, sweet. At least that's the mentality I have. And again, it doesn't work for everyone. I could be completely wrong. I could be leading people into depression, but you know, I don't know, man. I'm just speaking about how I feel.
On that note, to help out with the whole leading people into depression part, it's no, seriously. No, yeah. To help you get stuck out of that hole, I think a lot of people, they ride the wave a little bit too hard. Yeah. Ground yourself in, I don't want to say reality. Just ground yourself. You know what that means as a person. You should know what that means. It's when something bad or sad or terrible happens to you, it is so easy to get sucked into that feeling, that despair, down. whatever it is. Yeah. It's so easy to get sucked in. Same thing with happiness. You can ride your hearts really hard too, man, and people sometimes can't let it go on. You know, I've been to college and I've seen some people who cannot live that one amazing night. They'll do the same thing over and over again, and it's like chasing a high. You're like trying to find that happiness that you once were at, or if you're drowning your sorrows, you're trying to keep that stuff at bay so you can always be hyped. Right. You have to ride the wave, but don't let the wave crash. Don't drown in it. You know what I mean?
Y'all ever heard? I think it's like a Stoic quote, but they were saying like a great man is somebody that doesn't let his wins get to his head, but he doesn't let his losses get to him either.
100%.
It's like you can't let your highs build you up too high and make your head big all the way to the moon, but you can't let your losses and the bad things that happen to you,
and like he was saying,
bring you down either. It's really about staying in balance and peace, calm. Yeah,
and I think it's also another huge reason to have those people in your life who are able to put you in your place, in a sense, ground you. You know, and just make sure you're doing things that you're doing them for the right reason. And just, it's hard because like, what is being grounded, and how do I know if I'm not grounded or what's going on? If you're like a sense of loss or your sense of like loneliness or just emotional, you have just a lot of emotions going on. You really just have to sit still. And I learned this a lot through meditation and that's what comes to being alone, is like you have to, I see this a lot on TikTok. It's funny. It's like as soon as the voices in the head start to go, some like running out to go hit a J or someone running out to go to the bar or something. You know, those got to turn off those voices. But those are the same things that are gonna build you into who you are gonna become and who you were, I guess, fated to become.
Yeah.
You have to be able to sit there with those thoughts and not identify with them and realize like thoughts like. You gotta get to the origin of it. Like, what is a thought in itself? Like you have this great idea, but where did it come from? You didn't tell yourself, come up with this idea at 12:04 on Monday so that I can tell everyone. No, you don't come up with that stuff. These thoughts just come. You could even say, I've heard on like the theories, like they're entities in themselves and things like that. But we can get into the rabbit hole, whatever. But it's like once you realize those thoughts going through your head, how crazy, how sick, how horny, how whatever the hell they may be, aren't you. The more I feel like you have this pressure lifted off your shoulder, like I can examine them as if I'm examining someone else talking to me.
Yeah.
And think about like, okay, well, where would this thought lead me? And is this suitable for my situation at this moment? And is this going to make me a better individual? Is this going to make me a more better, you know, partner, mate, whatever it may be? Like you have to sit there and be one with your thoughts and dissect them and analyze them so you can, again, help you get to know yourself.
You ever heard of what emotion is?
What emotions
yeah,
are?
like, or
you want me to answer?
Well, I mean, go ahead and answer.
I mean, if you were asking me, I feel like emotions are our reaction to. It's almost like it's just another stimulant in a sense. Like if I'm outside sleeping in the woods and I hear all these birds chirping or you don't hear birds chirping, crickets and all these frogs and all that random stuff, it's a stimulation to my ears. So I listen to it, I can hear it. And emotions are stimulations to kind of like the exterior world. And again, in relation to who you, it's hard to explain, but.
I heard somebody say one time, they said, emotions are energy in motion.
Well, that's a good part too, and that's why it's like, you know, let them out, have outlets, go out for a run, and that's why people like going to those places where you like break stuff because you can get emotions out, and I think that is true, you know, like energy in motion, and it makes sense, and that's why it's, again, I think you have to have that outlet. I mean, we can get into a deeper rabbit hole, and I think through just evolution, like, the way we live life, like, is designed to make us depressed, anxious, and sad, because we're not meant to be in cubicles. And you have a cubicle at work, you can have a cubicle at home. Like you live on your own and you're working 40, 50 hours a week just to pay for somewhere to sleep, because you're not even there half the time. You know, you're out working and getting life done and doing your stuff just to have somewhere you can call home. You know what I mean? And like, I go back to that rock stuff. We're kind of meant to just we were animals before human beings, and human beings are just animals. You know what I mean? We're not that much different, other than, I guess, our great intellect, and we can talk about that too. I don't think we're as great as we think we are.
I agree.
Or at least we don't recognize our faults enough and kind of like relate back on them and try to make them better.
I think we forget we're animals.
Well, yeah, and it's very easy to forget when you're an animal because we have self-consciousness. No one else, no other species
supposedly.
does.
I think part of the problem.
I mean, I could be. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because I do think that a chimpanzee is self-aware. Yeah. At least to a certain degree. I'm not going to say he's like, I know what I want in the morning to eat. Banana. No, he's not that self-aware. But he knows I'm an ape. I got to eat. He's got some sort of an ego in there. There's the consciousness is there. It's very limited. But we have this extended consciousness that came out of nowhere 2 billion years ago, and we have this frontal lobe brain that, again, like I said, just is an equation for us to overthink, become depressed, just hate life in this society.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion.
What were you about to say?
I was just going to say that's the problem with being a human being, especially in this day and age, in the 21st century. Life, being an animal, your purpose is to survive. That's your only purpose.
Breed, eat.
Yeah, survive. Yeah. And in this day and age, survival, the basic foundations of survival, shelter, food, water, all that.
But you don't get those without.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a very safe way to do it now. Like you go to the store to get food. Safe? You don't
get the same adrenaline that you used to get.
You're not hunting for animals.
Evolutionarily, our bodies are like, what the hell is going on?
You're not building stuff.
No,
you're
listen.
Not doing anything that you're. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
It's like well, that's what I'm saying. In this day and age, I feel like our main focus as people, we're so self-aware, man. We are so, no other creature on earth knows it's gonna freaking die. Like that's an us thing.
We can't plan for the future. We're the only ones that can plan for the future.
Yeah. And basically, like we're so lost. We live in a society where like purpose has just been lost, man. Like when it used to be survival, that was your dopamine, that was your feelings of those good hormones flowing through your brain, all that healthy stuff. That's healthy. Now we live in this just everything is just mundane. You know, the tiniest little exciting thing happens and everyone's flipping out and makes huge news. And like that used to, you could honestly think of it as it used to be like a day-to-day thing for like our ancestors. And that can also be attributed to like our mental health issues and everything. Like
I definitely think it's attributed. I mean, you go into this, like I did a lot of podcasts like Andrew Huberman and a lot of things where it comes into awesome. Like, he's great, man. A lot of stuff where it's like how important it is to just move. And like I'm big into wellness and fitness and stuff like that. So I couldn't agree more. And some people are like, well, man, I don't have the energy to go to the gym. And it's not even that, man. You wake up and you go for a walk 20 minutes every morning. You will feel great. You wake up at 6, you go for a walk for 20 minutes, you come back home, nice glass of tea, chug a bunch of water, do a little journaling, maybe, or maybe just walk. You don't put too much on people. Your day will be so much more different. And then it's just a domino effect. You become more and more, and then maybe I should start
more running. At peace.
20 minutes turns into 30 minutes. 1 year turns into now I'm training for a triathlon. You don't magically just become Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't just magically become Michael Phelps. You don't just magically have your dream life. Yeah. Like we were just talking about. You have to fail. You have to go through all this dumb shit and try all these things just to get to that point. And then, I mean, to kind of bring it all full circle, it's like understanding that at the end of the day, humans, animals first. Like you have those natural like desires and instincts, and you have to recognize that and not act again like I was talking about with the Jaguar stuff. In that like, like me horny, me go now. You don't want to think that way. Or me hungry, me eat now. You have to be just more self-aware.
We're programmed robots, so you need to find ways.
Let's get into fucking childhood.
You need to figure out ways to make your function go.
Making nowadays aren't even their own, man. Not their own. I mean, it comes off as their own, but subconsciously it's not. It goes to this whole
how you were raised.
Well, yeah, it's about your raised, but like I think depending on how you're raised and the less opportunities you had to think for yourself, your thoughts kind of become almost like the early day Ford manufacturing lines. They put the card together piece by piece, right? Mm-hmm. So your ideas are put together piece by piece by all those other voices you've heard back and through your development as a child, and all those you can't do it, all those you're not good enough, all those you're too tall, all those you're too skinny, all those whatever it may be. So it just becomes your form of thinking, and you don't even realize it until you start to do some deep thinking, like why am I limiting myself, or why do I feel this certain way when I try to do something new? Why can't I be vulnerable? Why can't I suck at something and have someone watch me suck at it and be okay at sucking at it? And I think one of those things, one reason that is really hard nowadays is because we're not given that opportunity once as kids, and then one as you get older. As a kid, it's great. If a kid comes up to you and he's trying to play the piano and he sucks, it's like, look at that guy. He's great. He's doing good. He's trying. Yeah. Or a guitar, or he's trying to juggle a soccer ball. It's a kid, right? You know that. He's not going to be great at it. But when you're 24 to like 35 and you try something new for the first time, and
people are like, look at this guy.
Yeah, look at this guy. And that's how I felt when I was first starting climbing. Like I was not good. I was going by myself. I wasn't wearing the right shoes, things like that. And people could be judging all, but I wasn't worried about that. I was doing it because I truly want to be there. And again, as long as you don't let those fears or those limitations come along. And I forgot where I started with this, but
so clearly you have an idea of like a more elemental life that like would maybe bring us more happiness. Is that fair to say?
I mean, sure, but again, this is all just personal opinion. Like I talk about these things with him, Hatem, you, and Dogum, and I tell them, what would life? And they're like, man, you're just too like your opinions are very utopian. Like that'll never happen. Like him, he's like, can I talk about your profession? Is that okay?
Let's probably leave it off.
All right, fine. But whatever views you have, like I have such like, call them left or right leaning, and they're like, there's no way. But I think that's like what people should be doing to have a happy life. But again, works for everyone, doesn't work for everyone.
Well, see, like I agree that like maybe living in nature and things like that would maybe make us happier. But at the same time, bro,
I definitely want to say something. Go ahead.
I don't believe there's a going back to that. Like, I don't believe
exactly what. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really have to say it. I have these conversations with him and all, and they're like, "Why do you want to go back?" I'm like, you cannot go back. It's not even possible to go back. No, you're not going to tear down all these buildings we built and all right, everyone back into the forest. Computers. No, you don't. But you can integrate. You can take good from bad, and you can make things better.
Yes.
And that's where it comes. Being open-minded comes in place. Like I don't like iPhones, technology aren't bad. I can call my mom whenever I want. I can get directions to where I need to go. I can call the police. I can do all these things, but I can also waste 5 hours on TikTok. I can also get addicted to mobile porn. I can there's it's just endless. You have to take the pros and the cons and examine them both equally, and take the good from the good and the bad from the bad, and pick and choose. The same way Bruce Lee came up with his form of martial arts is he said, look at everything, take what you can use, and then do that and make your own kind of thing. And I think that's what life is you need to be able to, again, understand yourself so that you can pick and choose what's right with you. What feels right.
What works for you.
So I don't think I have this idea that works for everyone. Okay. And I don't think we should be going back and hunting, gathering again. I mean, although I think people should have, I think it'd be cool retreats. To have not only that, but like, I think it'd be tight. Like, imagine if they did this. Like, imagine if every household got just 2 chickens.
Oh,
right. Imagine if every household had 2 chickens. Just give them 2 chickens. Everyone has breakfast because everyone has eggs. People, again, some of them vegan, whatever maybe, but just the general populace. And then, give them not even an acre, give them a little, like this desk size to plant tomatoes, green peppers, onions. Like, how much money are they saving on some of their grocery stuff? Obviously, that's not everything you eat, but you're saving some. You're learning something, getting intellectually stimulated. You're learning a lot of stuff. And then you're providing for yourself. And then one day it's tomatoes. The next day it's a patch of tomatoes. Then you're growing herbs. And then, it's just endless. The more kind of, I feel like we take control of our own lives personally, and do things again for your own sake, like the better things come along. So yeah, I wouldn't say my way is the way.
Have you guys watched The Social Dilemma?
I love that stuff, man.
I've not seen that movie.
It's a documentary.
I've showed you some clips. It's the one where
they break down Facebook and about like how addictive and like.
I haven't finished it.
Yeah,
it's like
where they make that whole player and everything.
Yeah, social media is engineered to make you.
Well,
addicted.
it is, man. I mean,
but the thing about it is like they've this is a new creation, relatively speaking, for how big and how much of an impact it has on society and our everyday life. It's brand new.
We don't know what the effects are long term.
Seen,
So what who's to say that this stuff doesn't get worse? Like
we're literally the first experiment of that, because that kind of started when we were
100%.
When we were
100%.
like what, going through high school, 100%. Like first middle school.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I made my Facebook in middle school. Yeah,
literally, and it's like, bro, we yes, it came with a lot of opportunities, a lot of positives, but at the same time, we do not know how to manage this or use it correctly necessarily. Like,
I mean, Malik would definitely agree on me with this. We don't know enough about ourselves in general. Like people go to sleep and you wake up. It's like, how did your body keep you from not breathing? I mean, some people have like sleep things and need machines, but like I get a big cut on my hand, heals by itself. How to do that? You know what I mean? There's so much we don't know about what the body can do. You look at someone who I think is his actual genetic dad, but we don't know. David Goggins. Like, people can push themselves far. Like, you have no idea what the body can do, and we're over here like,
you are mini David Goggins.
I mean, stay hard. Like, that guy's kind of extreme. I get it. I'm not running 100 miles every day.
He is
but it's one of those things where it's like you don't even know what the body is capable of, and like, unless you've studied anatomy and human psychology and all those things, you might have like a good understanding. But the general public, no. Like, no one, like, if you ask someone, do you think your thoughts are subconscious? Like, how well would they come off with an answer? And I mean, I don't think my answer is that great, but it's like, I don't think everyone is as aware as like what we're talking about. It's like, we have no idea what this is. We're just lab rats. And so far the experiment is going pretty shitty, if you ask me. I mean, like, kids killing themselves left and right. I mean, it's all just, there's good parts about Instagram. People showing good stuff and promoting businesses and all, but most of it, like,
it's funny that you brought up the bullying thing. I've noticed that
it's crazy, and it's in young kids. I mean, mainly young girls, but it goes wild, bro.
What were you saying?
It's like you said, it's so if you think about like an old school world where we don't have technology and we don't have social media and all that stuff, you know, bullying still exists, right?
100%.
Yeah.
You go to school, you get bullied, but
Boys
you
are
come
gonna
back,
be
right?
boys.
It's not all over. The world can't see you getting bullied, right?
Yeah.
You go on Facebook, man. You go on Instagram,
The
wherever it
world
is.
watching.
You see kids killing themselves because they can't separate from that world. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's so
identify
freaking
with it.
addictive.
Yeah.
You could easily say get off, but they feel like they have that image to uphold on that social media. A lot of people's social media profiles are like them. That's how they feel.
It's a representation.
It's their representation
to the world.
It's like a portfolio. Want to get to know me real quick? Here's my answer.
Have you heard of like the thing like they found out that the world has actually become in a lot of ways a lot more violent since social media, in the sense of this, like before, let's say we're outside, right, and I disrespect you, right? Before we might fight, you might let it go, who knows where it might go, right? Mm-hmm. But it'll stay right there. Now I disrespect you and it's on camera. Now that's in front of the world now. So if you don't do nothing,
instigate.
Exactly. If you don't do anything, now you're kind of showing the world that now, you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now people have a much bigger.
It's like the consequences are larger.
Exactly. Much better incentive to have a big reaction to, like.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with what you're saying. Like, even like you were talking about, go back to when we didn't have phones and stuff. How often would a guy come up to someone like Malik and talk shit in their face? Like, no, they only do that behind a screen because they know that's where he can't touch him. And it's funny too because it's always the most vulnerable, and that's something I've learned in life too, is like just especially working like the hospitality business, and like the restaurant business and stuff. It's like people will come at you with all sorts of negative energy. But what did you do to them other than bring them their starters and their drinks? Like, you do nothing but everything right for them. And clearly, they have something going on outside of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're just letting that out on you. So, again, I can choose to hit back and let out again, or choose to let that ruin my day. Or I can come to an understanding, like, clearly I haven't done anything to this guy. He probably just had a bad day with his wife or just had a bad day at work, and that's why this is happening. And to get on to what he was saying, how people kind of like get stuck in that rut of being down, and I think it's and especially with social media now, it's a lot like it's a lot more solidified where people like they identify with being depressed. Like it's almost a trend. It's kind of cool. Like if you're not depressed a little bit, you're not a little anxious, like you're not a little, like you don't have a little bit of trauma in your life. Like it's almost a cool thing to kind of like, and I think that's kind of sad too. Like people kind of lynch onto that idea of like being sad, and it almost becomes their identity. And I think that's a lot of things. I mean, we again trying to avoid politics, but I think that's one thing that's happened recently too with like identity politics. Just in general, I think people and like we started off with this podcast. You asked me about the climbing and stuff, and clearly I'm not like all lifed-in climber, and most people identify you as something when you do something, but being able to not identify with things yourself is super helpful, and that's just one small example where I think people can identify with them feeling bad, or again opposite side with the good stuff, and always chase it.
Yeah. So random question, kind of, and going all the way back to initially you said one day about you retiring to El Salvador, right?
Yeah, man.
I don't think it would take that much. I think you could achieve that, like a retirement over there, pretty young.
Oh, 100. And that's the big reason. Is
that something you want to do?
I think ultimately, yeah. I mean, the way things are going here, I don't think it's gonna get any better. It's personal opinion.
Like if you get the money to set you up and be super stable over there by 30, 35, would you leave?
That's what I'm saying. I was hoping 35, and I'd leave by 35. Yeah, I wouldn't just stay there forever. If I'm that young, I'd travel around, do some stuff. But I would make that my base of operations for sure. I mean, and that's the biggest thing about like being able to like. I think it's beautiful if you ever get the chance to travel. You get to get exposed, and I would recommend eventually getting to like third world nations and seeing poverty eye to eye, and if you can live in it. Like where my grandparents are from, it's El Campo, bro. Like you're walking barefoot. There's the cows walking by in the morning. The guy comes with his aguacates, tomates, cebolla, everything in the morning to sell all that stuff. You got to be careful. You're walking in cow poop. Like it's just great. You know what I mean? And that type of life people, again, we see like it's so poor. He doesn't even have a shower.
But they're happy.
They're so happy.
Facts.
They don't need anything more. I mean, I remember
and they
like
live longer.
They live longer. And it's, I mean, we can get into a lot of stuff, but like, I personally do a lot of intermittent fasting when it comes to dieting. And I try to stick with like, you know, as whole food as I can. I'm trying to get too much. Again, I eat junk food and stuff. But like, you look into like the people who are poor, like they don't have the luxury to go out and breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But they're also the healthiest. So why are we having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we're also the most obese? Like obviously things aren't adding up. So I think what we view as poor is the wrong thing. We're looking at, you know, like it's like what I forget this quote. Like when you're pointing at the moon, you can get lost at looking at the finger instead of at the moon. You know what I mean? You're looking at the wrong thing when it comes to being poor or rich. Like I think poor and rich are kind of like mindsets. Same thing like heaven and hell.
I mean, I think we're not properly valuing other aspects of life, such as health, freedom,
or just life in general.
I mean, bro, I was having this conversation. Like, I recently got into tech, and I'm very thankful for my job, very happy with it, right?
Hell yeah.
And I'm making decent money to cover all my stuff, right? Yeah. At the same time, I also have a lot of free time, to be honest. Yeah. Right? I wouldn't say the job is the most demanding. I'd say it's very flexible, right? Would I trade that for a tech job at Facebook or like a big company, but I have to put in 3 times as much work? No, right? I wouldn't. Exactly. I really wouldn't, because I really value the free time that I have to even do things like this and like hang out with people I love, passion projects, creative outlets that I want to explore, I want to work on.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you're 100% right, and I think Malik would agree with me about this, and we were talking about this before the podcast went live, is putting yourself in a position where you have enough to provide for yourself, whatever realm, financial, whatever it may be, and then if you choose, again, start a family, do whatever you need, build that wealth for everyone else to come to. Like, it's not just about you in this place. Like, you know, like, what's that beautiful quote? You know, like you want to be planting trees that you'll never get to sit under the shade of. You know what I mean? Like you want to do that for younger generations. Prepare these kids in the same way. Like if you have kids or you know nieces or nephew, give them that knowledge and that understanding of what life is. Like it's simple. Like don't get too caught up into it, buddy. And yeah, I mean we both. I think it's one thing that we both definitely always agree on is like how simple life can be if you just
make it simple.
Yeah, right.
If you literally just one step at a time.
Yeah.
If you or what's your guys' opinions of like, let's say people like billionaires and just rich people like Warren Buffett and I think Jackie Chan said something like this. They said that they're not going to leave any money to the kids. And they got a lot of money, right? But they're like, no, because then you're not going to be hungry. You're not going to have any fuel to any hunger to go out in life and conquer and to make something of yourself. You could literally just be a degenerate your whole life. And be sad there. So they're choosing to do better with that money, give it away to charity and all that. What's your opinion? Like, do you think we should be leaving things to our kids necessarily? Or like, because I also see a lot of value in that. Like at the end of the day, like this may be a very unpopular opinion, but like, I don't know how my kids are going to be. Or my grandkids. Like people always say like you want to start building for generational wealth for your grandkids and your grandkids grandkids, right? Kids. It's like I may not agree with them whatsoever. Like if they were alive right now, I may really dislike them, and I might no, like you don't know. I might want to have nothing to do with them, and I wouldn't want to leave them a single dollar. I prefer to spend that on myself and set up a charity, set up a trust that every year gives scholarships to whatever, or every year it helps people, feed people somewhere. Like, I think I would probably prefer to do that than to leave money to some motherfucker that I don't even know. Right, It doesn't matter that you're coming through my bloodline, though. Like, you might be...
Well, if it's your kid, I hope you know him a little bit, but yeah. I get what you're saying, though. Yeah, I mean...
But even then, like,
I'll let him
sometimes you don't... A lot of times, like, look how many kids like come out and they're not at all what like the parents raised them to, like the values. And again, a lot of parents try to like force things upon you, and I think that's wrong. Yeah. But I think we could agree that there's a lot of kids and a lot of people that come out and they're just like pieces of shit.
I mean, I personally think like you should, regardless of anything, you should be loving your kids, right? Like whatever position, personality, whatever they pick in life, what they want to pursue or follow or what they identify as, that's their choice, and you should love them regardless. However, that being said, you don't have to leave them all of it. You know, if you know someone's not gonna like, treat use the generational wealth that you have built for you and your family, that doesn't all need to go down the drain based off of one bad apple, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you can see these things in society as well. I could also say just have more kids because you have more personalities to choose from, because that's what a lot of people do. We have a friend
enough to run the farm.
We have a friend who is following in her father's footsteps, and they are slowly moving up the chain of their company. And not all the siblings are doing that. It's just a few. So, or two of them, I think. And you know, you have more kids with more personalities. You know, if you have one kid, you need to understand that kid may not be what you want it to be. It may not be how you want them.
You have one race in the horse. I know, one horse in the race.
One horse in the race.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Instead of you having a whole bunch of kids and like hoping that one of them.
Yeah.
But on that same end, you need to provide for your family. Your family is you. It's almost it's an extension of yourself.
100%. And I agree with what you're both saying. It's like you don't have to leave them everything. And I think it was Shaquille O'Neal talking about his same thing with his kids. It's like, you're not rich. I'm rich. I mean, like, it's not your money. It's my. And I really respect that. And what Jackie Chan said too. You don't want to just make it degenerate. And I think, again, being smart about generational wealth. I'm not saying I'm going to be a millionaire and just make sure everything. Like, let's say having a household. You know, making sure that there's food on the table and the basic necessities that your kids need, they have it. They might not get their car as soon as they get a permit, learner's permit. They might not get that new backpack every year. They might not get that school outfit, and that builds character for sure. And I agree. And I don't like. I'm so against coddling and spoiling the kids. And I think, and I love and respect for my mom and everyone in my family. I love them all, but I was definitely coddled and spoiled. A little privileged and spoiled, right? To where like a lot of things were kind of done for me. Where it's like, I could clean my bathroom, but I know my mom will do it in like 2 weeks. Or I could
struggle is the path for growth.
100%. And once you're kind of put in that position to struggle, and I think it's like I've seen these TikToks and stuff where you have like 5-year-olds, you know, like dressing themselves and getting ready for school and doing all these things independently. Super important. Like I was listening to this podcast about this one person where it's like, I forget his name. I should definitely pay the respects. But anyways, he's like, let's say you have your kid, right? And he comes and he breaks his toy. And instead of like, oh, come here, baby, let me fix it. I put it together. Here you go. Enjoy your toy. Instead of doing that, what he says is take the toy, throw it away. And the guy's like, well, why would you throw away the kid's toy? He's like, because most likely the kid will be like, well, it's not. Like, don't throw it away. Yeah, this is my favorite toy. And then he'll go to the couch, play with it a little bit, look at it. And then he'll like, oh, and puts it together, comes back. Dad, look, I put my toy back together. It's working. Like, great, son. How'd you do that? How did you figure that out? You know what I mean? Like, how did you? He's like, you see this thing here? You just, you know, there's a hole and you just put it in. The wheel's back on and it works. And he's like, well done. And that's the kind of stuff you want to be doing for your kids. It's kind of like putting them in that spotlight. And I think my dad did that a lot with me when I was with him, but I was only with him for so often throughout my life that I didn't really get a lot of him. So it's really like putting responsibility on children at a young age, making them think for themselves, making them make their own decisions, and all those things can again make you such a better human as you get older. So yeah, like the coddling and all that stuff it's tough when it comes to having kids. And then it ties back to that generational wealth. You want to be able to provide for your family so that no one, like, if someone ends up getting super terminally ill, will we all suffer at the end of it because all our bills are going toward that? Yeah. Or can I still have that house and food? You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting more of, where like the necessities and the general stuff that we need to stay alive are taken care of. Everything else you need to work for, because this is what I did to get us here. Show me what you can do to get yourself where you want yourself to be. I will support you nonstop. I won't give you small loans of $1 million, but I will definitely give you advice and tell you what I think you should be doing. Because I think, like you were talking about, when it comes to parents throwing their ideologies on you, throwing their dreams and their hopes on you, especially first generation. I mean, I know me and yourself, definitely first generation. So it's like when they get this, I can't even put myself what they've been through. I mean, being like 5 years old, packing up all your stuff, walking 4 days, 3 nights in the middle of fucking nowhere with a bunch of random people, and your mom's telling you, be quiet, get down low, you can't cry, don't. You're in the mud, you haven't showered in 3 days because you're crossing the border. And then you get here and you're speaking a whole other language. You live in an apartment, your bedroom is this size, and you have 5 people living in here. I mean, when I was younger, like, we were definitely a lot worse off than we are now, but we weren't like poor or anything. But like, you know, like Hispanics, we're sardines in an apartment, man. Like we fit like 15 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, and that's just kind of how the lifestyle goes. So like, without those kind of situations to broadening your way of thinking and making you more open-minded, you give birth to degenerates, and those kids who become pampered and spoiled. Yeah.
I hate to break up the fun, but I actually gotta
go. That's fine.
Yeah.
You guys want to continue?
I mean, no.
It's up to you.
Yeah, we could pause for a little bit.
Yeah, we pause.
I bet.
Well, where were we? I think we were talking about being spoiled and that tying into like generational wealth and like how you want to kind of raise your kids in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I was having this conversation a couple of days ago with somebody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And pretty much I was saying like, I see a lot of people our age right now that are maybe ahead of us financially.
Yeah.
Maybe whatever measures you want to put, right? But personally, I would not trade my position where I am right now for that.
Factual.
Because I know in a lot of ways I'm a lot more. I'm a lot stronger. I'm a lot more.
Matters.
Exactly. Yeah. I've gone through a lot more adversity. I have a wider perspective. I understand a lot of things that they don't understand.
Right.
Personally, like, I mean, to put it like in a vulgar way, like I was saying, like I know they're bitches. You get what I'm saying? Like a lot of these guys, like, yeah, they might be a little bit ahead because they had a little bit of support in whatever aspect. Their big bro was already kind of getting to like business world and like, yo, you should do this, you should do that. I got some bread for you.
Yeah.
Like you could flip whatever the case may be. Right. And like maybe I'm not in that position right now, but at the same time, I've had to go through things that made me stronger, gave me better perception,
right,
or perspective. Yeah. And personally, I wouldn't trade that because I don't think money or no place in life can possibly buy that.
No, man. And you have that upper edge on those people who didn't get to go through those hurdles that you had to go through, and they didn't get the lessons that you did having to go through those hurdles. So you just have again, we might not be in what measure, whether it's financially or as much views as that one other person, but you have the edge on them when it comes to just being, like you said, a wider perspective and understanding of like just life in general. Things might go here. Yeah. And in them, it's also like they don't have that initial hunger that you do. You didn't start with like everything there for you. You had to build it from the ground up. And that's something I have respect for rather than, getting something handed to you.
And personally, that comes like, I didn't have a bad upbringing in the sense of like, I always had clothes. I always had shoes.
Right. Yeah.
I always had food, right?
Same.
But it wasn't the shoes that I wanted. It wasn't the clothes that I wanted. Yeah. We had...
It wasn't always McDonald's.
No, never. It was very rarely. Yeah. It was, you get one snack per week for you and your brother, right?
Yeah.
And like, we knew like, you can't eat those in the crib. Like, because these are for school. You get one fruit snacks for school, like for lunch. Yeah. And it's like, we'd go to other kids' cribs and like, they got every snack and unlimited juice and Capri Suns and like, that wasn't a thing for us. Like, you get a Capri Sun. What the heck? Yeah. Exactly. And not to say like, to somebody else, like us being here, we're spoiled in general. Yeah. And so I don't want to say like, oh, but at the same time,
I have it so bad. Yeah.
No. At the same time, that little not being spoiled to that degree gave me, and even I'd say my brother as well in the major way, like that hunger to be like, okay, I can't ask them for this, but how can I get it?
Right. And it reflects on, again, as you've grown, you making this conversations with, Christopher Hanel. I mean, it's like you've had this idea for so long, but you don't have that person to be like, all right, here's 2 mics, here's 2 headphones, here's all the cameras you can record with. You had to do that yourself. Yeah. And I mean, I love the studio you have already too. So it's like, that is why I respect it so much more. Is because you made it yourself from the ground up. And this is something like we talked about. You're doing that because you want to do it. Yeah. And I think it's great getting voices out there. And it's one reason I really love podcasts nowadays, just in general, is because, and obviously some more than others, but you come across these topics that you walking across the street, you just don't listen to. Like conversations I have throughout the day, whether it's I'm at work and at the bar or just passing to the grocery stores, are super, super simple, no emotion and nothing really. But when you have a conversation where you're sitting down for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you're just talking to someone with ideas you've been just brewing this whole time, and they're throwing ideas back at you, there's something like, again, it turns into an art where it's like, it becomes this, almost if you close your eyes, this painting or it brings you this feeling of like, wow, maybe what he's saying is let me try that. I mean, like if he can do it, that, you know, broke Mexican kid right there with a silly bandana on, if he can, you know, find happiness in just simplicity of life, maybe I can too. And again, I'm not some super thing. I've got it made, you know, like every day it's a battle. I mean, it's every day you wake up. It's again, like I talked about that balance thing. It's something that has to be constantly maintained and observed and always being worked on. It's not something where you're like, I achieved it and that's that. I'm happy and it'll be that way. Man, we talked about it. Like it goes as soon as it comes.
Yeah. So I know you're getting more into, or you've been for a while, like real into art and music and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different things. Like I said, I want to. Your 20s are really just try everything and see what you don't like. And I've always, as a child, loved music. I mean, when I was young, my mom got me into like. She was huge on dancing. Mom. But yeah, she's huge in dancing. So when I was young, she teach me the bachata, cumbia, salsa, merengue, everything. So like, you know, I feel like also dancing, we talked about, you know, emotions being energy and motion, like that dancing also helps you connect with that music. And then my dad just being in love with Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, you know, Pink Floyd and Metallica and all these guys at such a young age. And you go in like Mana and, you know, all these other bands too that you just like, I got this I feel like at a young age, such a huge exposure to just all kinds of music. And I think that's why nowadays, like when people ask me like, what's your taste? It's like, I just like good music, whatever makes me move or whatever. So yeah, in high school, I started practicing the piano, got into the guitar eventually like a year later. Then the drums, I really love the drums, so I'm focusing more on now, and a little bit of bass guitar and things like that. But it's real simple stuff, you know, you're just on GarageBand, and just like, what can I make today? And just make myself like nod my head to. No one really listens to it. I don't have any aspirations, but it's one of those outlets like I talked about, something similar to climbing, where you're allowed to express yourself freely.
Is there a specific direction you want to go down? Like you want to?
I thought, you know, there's tricky question. Ultimately, I don't have an end goal. Like I want to be, you know, as big as Jay-Z by 2020, whatever. But I do think it'd be freaking cool to just have something that you can say I made, and then be able to share that with others and have them come back and say, and just give you their interpretation. I think it's really cool getting back interpretation and feedback of what you've created, whether it's good or bad. I mean, who cares? Ultimately, I don't really mind if my stuff is like you like it or you don't. You know, it's up to you. It's not forcing you, but it's cool to get back. Like, you know, some people are like, I got this vibe. Like I was listening to this and I felt like, man, if this was playing on the radio, I mean, this sounds like something I just listened going down 95. And like, interesting. But yeah, I mean, ultimately there's no like real end goal. I think it'd be cool though one day to like, I always thought about it'd be cool in my head. Like if I had like a little place or something, or even like a shed, you know, open up the shed, invite a bunch of friends over, get a bunch of drinks, get everyone in a good mood and just play some music for people. Yeah. Not really charge anyone, just like a kind of like a hangout, grill out with a bunch of people and just, you know, give that opportunity to kind of like fulfill that dream of being an artist or whatever it may be, and just, you know, exposing yourself and being able to perform.
Creative expression.
Yeah, creative expression. And you never know who you'll influence with that kind of stuff too. You know, I mean, it's something like I talked about, like life, you can't really go it alone. So like all these inspirations I've gotten, I want to be able to be that kind of inspiration for other people too.
I definitely see that, because a lot of my motivation for a lot of the things that I want to do, like in film and writing and stuff like that, was literally based off of me like just watching or seeing something that I have a huge amount of appreciation for, and like me seeing the layers, how difficult like the camera angles, and me thinking like, wow, like how hard would it be to do that?
Yeah, like, man.
And like when you really like analyze certain things, and then me thinking like, hold up, like I can, like maybe not to that quality right now, but like,
and that's the key word, maybe not right now.
Yeah.
But when you work at something, like 10 years turns into like, wow, I made what I never thought I would, you know?
But that's kind of where things like, how, I don't want to say how serious you're taking it, because like you could do something as purely as a hobby, because like it literally makes you feel good.
Right.
But you could also like, I don't know if you have any plans of like doing a full body of work at some point, like.
I mean, it's funny because like I've got stuff on my laptop under GarageBand that's like 30 files of just nonsense, and I could probably put like an EP together, like a little small like 5-song album. But a lot of my stuff, again, like I told you, I get really, really obsessed in things and kind of like dive head first. And then like after 3 months, I'm like, that wasn't so cool anyways. Then I might come back and things like that. But music and like climbing, certain things are kind of things that kind of like long term and keep me going. But yeah, with the music thing, I'm also not like, I'm not good. Like I told you, I'm technologically kind of challenged where it comes to like, as soon as I record something, I'll take the first take. I've got the layer of the piano on. I've got the layer of the drum in the back of it. And then I finally recorded my lyrics on top. But now it's not timed well. And now this could be a little better there. And that maybe I could have played this key or this note. And then that's when all the editing comes in and all that stuff. And that's where I don't have the patience to sit there and like edit it and make this such a meticulous process. When I'm here because like I just needed to let loose and just play the guitar or play the drums and just record some stuff and make fun. So a lot of the stuff I have is just like recorded everything on the first take. It's all super raw and it just, and I struggle to go past that. I really enjoy just that spontaneous making things. I don't really like, I don't enjoy the process of really getting
the grittiness.
Down. Yeah, the grittiness. And maybe that's just me being super lazy, but that's just how I feel.
And to be fair, I think a lot of the gold that people find in these endeavors, I'd say, come from going through the gritty enough to like.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to goals.
Right.
Because if your goal is literally just to feel good and
then you're winning every day if you're doing it.
Literally.
Yeah.
And there's no ever.
Yeah, there's no need for like. Does he like
external?
My songs?
Yeah, external like gratification.
Yeah, did I get enough likes or views or whatever it may be? Yeah, 100%. And that's what I really love about it. And I have a friend of mine who we jam usually on Sundays. I like to call it going to church. I'll tell my mom I'm going to church, but I'm just going to my friend's house to go jam and stuff.
That's what I call the gym.
Yeah, whatever you may call it, or even going outside. But that kind of. I mean, music is just so beautiful. It's this language that like allows you. I think someone said, I forget who it is, and I could butcher it too, but music is us describing these emotions and these feelings and all this stuff on the inside that words just can't do. You know what I mean? You have to listen to that guitar riff and how he makes that guitar cry and how the drums slowly kind of bring it together and then the bass coming in. Like those emotions, you don't like, no one can speak that and you can feel it. You have to get it through some sort of the view, whether that be music or dancing or whatever it may be. And that's what I really like about music is that thing that you can't, like you just
can't
have
touch in any other way.
You just have to shut up. You just feel it. You know what I mean? And that's why I go back to my original point where it's like you have 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. Like most times you really just need to be quiet, listen, observe, and enjoy. And and that's what I love about music. It allows you to be in the present moment. You can't think of other things while you're coming up with a guitar riff or filling out or trying to come up with a feel for this song or just, as you're listening, you're just jamming, right? I'm listening to this guy play his guitar riff and it's like, what would sound good on that? Should I kick here? Should I do a little bit faster on the hi-hat? Whatever it may be. I don't know the terms. I don't even know how to read music or anything. It's all just effing around and just trying. But I think that's the beauty in it. And yeah.
No, have you ever seen Jack Conte?
I can't say I have.
He's the founder of a Patreon.
Okay.
So he's actually an artist. Okay. And he has he's in a band. And he's like I think he also makes music by himself. But he was mainly doing covers.
Okay, so it's not like a well-known art band either.
Well, actually, they have millions of views.
John Conte, yeah, I feel like name sounds familiar.
But anyways, Jack, this guy, pretty much, he wasn't making any money, and he was like, "How do I make money?" So he made Patreon and had people start paying for it, and like, he made it mainly for himself. Yeah, but also like released it for artists as well, and then he got paid off of that as well. Yeah, but it's like talk a lot about the idea of like you being an artist for you, and like everyone should be expressing how they feel, how emotions they're going through, stories, ideas.
In whatever medium you choose.
Exactly. But I don't think there's enough people in these mediums like talking like music, books, movies. And that's it might be weird to say considering like there's so much music, there's so much books, but at the same time,
there's
like
really none.
Literally like you can't really put a cap. Like we're all different. Yeah. You have a completely different perspective than I do. Yeah. Like you might have experienced, even if we went through the exact same thing. Yeah. Right. You may have experienced it in a different way than I did. Yeah. And we were right next to each other the whole time. Right. We could spend our whole lifetimes right next to each other. Yeah. But you took it a completely different way than I did. Yeah. And your way might be important to a lot of people.
Yeah. But might not be.
But my way might be as well.
Yeah. Vice versa, man.
and everybody's perspective is important.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a beautiful thing to really get your thoughts out, because you might be helping somebody in a way that you don't even know.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it, is when you, like I said, when you do things that come from the heart, those are the best things that can be done, because people can feel, people can hear, people can see the authenticity like pouring out of whatever you're doing. And that is contagious. They're like, man, like, how can I be on a wave that way? Whether it's, I don't want to be a drummer or whatever, or a climber, but like, I want to be able to express myself really in that same form, and be able to like kind of come up with my own thoughts and be my own person, and not have to rely on anyone else, and go out and treat myself on movie dates if I need to, you know, things like that. And yeah, I mean, like I said, coming from the heart is where you want to definitely go for anything, whether it's your career, or your hobby, or relationship, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Film, you could call it something like that.
But
you have the building blocks in essence.
Fully. I mean, bro, mics have never been cheaper. Computers have never been cheaper. Like cameras, all these things, all the basic necessities and tools to make stuff.
Yeah.
It's never been more accessible to people.
It's true.
And don't get me wrong, hopefully it gets more accessible.
Yeah.
But now's the best time for people to like really, I don't know, start
express themselves
and share who they are, and add ideas to society. Like there's this I forget his name, but it's this really big tech guy, this Indian guy, and he's also happens to be a billionaire. And he talks a lot about like advice for like young people and whatnot. And he talks a lot about like, he's like, why he thinks accumulating money is important. And he's like, because he feels that it's very, or he sees, he's like, the world has been in the past run by a lot of older men,
right,
from a specific demographic, right?
Sure.
And he's like, that's what society has been controlled. He's like, and we all have different perspectives. We all have different experiences and cultures.
Right.
He's like, and it's your job to try to impart that or share that with society.
100%.
And in reality, you need resources to do that.
Agreed.
Like, there's no, if you want to have a media team of this or that, and really start sharing to the degree that's like impactful,
right,
you need money.
Right. So
he's big on that, like, of everybody's duty is to make society better in the way that they genuinely see fit.
Yeah. In the ways that,
and for you it might be
who knows,
sharing something about health, something about food, whatever the case may be. And for me it might be something about the mind, for writing. Who knows exactly. But if we
there's the only way to find out is doing things like this. And to go back to your original point and to play a little bit of devil's advocate, like this is like the best time for people to just express themselves, and whether you're letting out music or podcasts or art or whatever the hell you're doing, like, now's the time. But on that same token, I was talking about this with a few people at the bar, for sure, was about, especially when it comes to the music world, is like, and it's like, I think it's a universal law, when quantity goes up, quality comes down. Like, there's so much stuff coming out now, but the chances of you finding something that's like authentic, hits home, really purely made, very low. Just because, again, like I said, the more quantity goes up, the less quality goes. Go ahead. Yeah,
I highly disagree with that. And there's actually studies that talk about that, like about in terms with art and whatnot. Like, and professors have done studies in college and whatnot, in classes of photography and things like that. And they split the class up in half, right? Yeah. And they say, okay, the left side of the room is going to be your final grade is going to be dependent on the quantity of pictures you take. the other side is going to be based on the quality of your picture. So you're only going to turn in one photo.
Okay.
But it has to be like a perfect
that's
photo.
Your grade. So obviously you want the perfect photo for the perfect grade. Yeah.
And of the highest quality possible. Right. And when they really come down to see all these things, the top 100 pictures are all pretty much all from the side of quantity, because it's the whole idea that the more reps you do, the better you will get naturally. And even like as a perfectionist like myself, like even this idea, like right, I've thought about doing this for a long time, like and I've had things that like I've told you, like I've written like scripts and had ideas of like short films and things that I want to shoot. Like I've started multiple books, right? And I literally have a whole bunch of pages written down and stuff like that. That I just left, right? But it's kind of me saying, I would realize I'm like, this isn't good enough. This isn't to the quality I want. Sure, yeah. Whatever the case may be. No, I need a red camera. It's like you know that It'd camera?
Be so much better with the red light and stuff.
No. It's a brand of camera, but it's over $10,000.
Okay.
It's like a lot of money, pretty much. Yeah. But I think it's a $50,000 camera. But you can rent them and whatnot. And you can get it for like days and you shoot whatever. Yeah. But me, out of wanting to do that, right, and be like, no, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be high budget. Like I want it to be legit. Yeah. All these things, right? What ends up happening is like I don't even do it.
Right.
And
you're so focused on quality.
Exactly. And what happens is like in reality, like let's say right now when I'm in a position to actually do some of those things, what happens when I actually shoot it? It's probably gonna be shitty. There's gonna be a lot of mistakes. Yeah. There's gonna be, even with this, like I didn't realize that the cameras have a 2-hour limit. Oh. The first podcast or second podcast, when I reached that 2-hour limit, not even knowing there's a 2-hour limit.
You just kept going.
Well, I cut it off right after that. Oh, okay. And the last couple minutes didn't have video, right? But now I learned the cameras have a 2-hour limit. Yeah, exactly. So if we go over 2 hours, I got to turn them back on. Yeah. And there's going to be a 20-second break where there's no video. Right. And nobody will have a problem with that, most likely. It's not that deep. Yeah. Exactly. But now I know that. Yeah. Now moving forward, I move with that knowledge and that information. And now I've had a couple videos, like this is still very early on, but like I've had a couple videos where I did not like the angles. Moving forward, now this angle is going to be maybe a little lower, a little more centered. Right. I noticed maybe I had too much space on, I was leaning too much to my side or whatever the case may be.
Agreed.
So it's like, I really believe the quality comes with the quantity.
No, I think in the respect you're talking about it, 100% agreed. When it comes to like I think we're talking about like perfecting an art. I think when I originally made that comment was more like, in my endeavors of looking for new music, I have less luck. But I do think I agree with you where it's like, if you're doing something, you can only get better with the more you do of it. Yeah. 100% agreed. And that's the biggest thing, like, again, ties into like that, just getting started in certain things. Like you want to be at that place right away. Like I want to be as big as Jimi Hendrix. But you don't do that unless you trained as much as them. In any sense, photographer, book writer. Like you can try and write as many books as Stephen Hawking, but not everyone can write 3 pages a day. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things you have to do, and it's like you said, how much hunger do you have?
Facts.
Is there a target there? Yeah.
And that also comes down to like realizing like the goal you have, right? Because I fully understand that, and I'm not saying this in a negative way of like that. I think what you're doing is wrong, because I think what you do is awesome. Like you trying so many different things, and like I think that's a beautiful thing. I think more people need to be trying things, because too many people just went to school, right? Yeah. Didn't experience no real life. They were in this bubble of what is college, right? Where what's cool is being in
it's not anything related to the real world.
No, whatsoever.
Well, if the only thing it's related to, it's living in the work field. Like school is just made to make you a good employee and citizen. But even
you're
then,
not
like taught about life.
Even then, there's a reason why so many guys we know, like they in college, they have so much fun. They're in this frat, whatever.
And then the party's over.
Exactly. 4 years. And then they're like, as soon as college is over and they get to like their office job, they're like, I'm depressed. Yeah. Man. Like, I don't know anything. Like, my life isn't exciting anymore and all that, because you were in this bubble, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I don't even know where I was going with this.
No, I mean, I completely agree. Like, and that's I didn't finish college myself. I played soccer at a university called UDC, University of the District of Columbia.
I didn't even know this.
Right after high school. Yeah, I played a year of Division II soccer over there. And the campus wasn't crazy, so it wasn't like, you're going out to or parties and there's a sorority here, sorority there. It wasn't much campus life. It's DC. And again, ever since when I first started playing soccer and up until that point, like the beginning year of college soccer, I was really focused on, no drinking, no smoking, nothing, man. I was really focused. I was set on being like, the next big goalkeeper, whatever. Yeah, and to get into like what happens with those guys after 4 years of college is Ochoa, something like that. I mean, I got the curls for it, man. But when you become so identified with that one thing you have planned out for yourself and it all crumbles, then you're like, dude, what's next? And there's nothing left for life. And that's where I come into like, you have to be willing to just, I think what I was gifted with at birth, and I'm thankful for it, is like having just that want to learn,
curiosity,
and curiosity, but also like having ganas to learn something, and having that urge to like, something. I mean, as simple as, I work at this bar. I learned all the stuff, their POS system, the drinks on tab. And then, okay, but what about the kitchen? Like, how can I sell that food better? Like, learn about like what goes in the in that flatbread or in this sandwich, or and learning those things where it's like having that, or it gives you that edge over other people. And going back to like the college stuff, I think that's where I kind of slowly came to the conclusion myself, where I feel like a lot of us are kind of, I think just in general, we're too young to be pushed into school. I feel like people, again, it's not for everyone. People go right out of high school into college and have a great career, have a great life. Again, there's those people out there. But there's outliers who it doesn't work for. Yeah. And I found that out for myself, where it's like when I was there, given the person I am, like we talked about, I'm super obsessed with certain things. So like when I was playing college soccer, I was obsessed with the soccer. Yeah. Like the school came second, again, which isn't smart. I'm paying tuition out of my pocket and all these things, but soccer came first. I was more concerned on how I performed on the field and what the coaches thought about me than my grades or anything else. So after a year of just focusing on school, soccer rather than school, my grades didn't come out well and I get kicked off the team. And then I'm like, dude, like what do I do now? Next? And all I know is wake up, go to practice, train. Wake up, go to practice. Like that's all I know. So I think that's why. And ever since I was little, my parents have had me in sports for a while. So I think that's what solidified that part of my personality, of just that interest in wellness and fitness and health and that whole kind of atmosphere. Yeah. But yeah, it's tough when you get that carpet like pulled from under your legs. You just have no idea what to do next. So you're kind of thinking like, whatever I do is wrong because I didn't do what I was planning to do. It's now I'm a failure.
You were standing on one leg and that leg got kicked out under you.
Yeah. And now you think there's no more legs in the world. You know what I mean? But in that respect, we're almost like a starfish where you can just grow back a limb. Yeah. Just try something new, as long as you don't identify with one thing and make it your... You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You know what I mean? You have to be able to, unless it's something you love. And we talked about like having a goal. And at the moment, like we talked about, I think like you were saying, you respect where I come from and having being open to a lot of things. But I think like in regards to where I respect where you're at is you've narrowed down your sight and you've found a certain, like you found that
direction that I want to go in.
Right. And I was from the movie American Sniper. You've probably watched that one.
I actually haven't. Or actually, no.
I'm sure you've watched it. There's a book too. But one of the quotes is like, aim small, miss small, when they're practicing for sniper shooting. And it stuck with me watching that movie. It's like, it's really true. If you aim and put a really, and Malik was talking about this when he was here, like you really get down to a specific goal, it's bound to happen because you've put so much thought, so much effort, and you have it like solidified. And again, if you have that hunger and everything behind it, you're going to get there.
It's bound to happen.
So you have to have a goal. Once you find, that's that niche or whatever, that's the general area, then you zoom in, focus in your sight, get your, your crosshairs on what you want to hit, and aim small and miss small. You know what I mean?
So what I was saying when I lost my thought process, was saying like, I fully respect what you do in the sense of like, you're just so open to trying things and you get pretty good at things really fast. Right?
I think so.
And I myself, like, I used to want to try a million different things and had a million different, like, ideas, passions, hobbies, and like, but what about this? And this is really cool. And I would start a book and I would write it for a couple months, and then I start over here and I start a script, and I'm, you know what I'm saying? And I'm trying a bunch of different things, and then like what I realized is like, I'd end up nowhere. And what happened was like, after a year, I'd realize I'm like, okay, like what did I accomplish? Like, and a year would pass, right? And I have nothing to show for it. Like I didn't finish any of the things. And again, it comes down to what you're looking for.
Right. Because
like,
I wouldn't down myself on that because I tried so much. You got to look at that too.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm not saying it in the negative way of like, what you're doing is wrong.
Right. Yeah. And I wouldn't take it that way for sure.
But I think like if you are passionate about something, like I think you should really
narrow down that focus.
Exactly. Follow all the way through, because like at the end of the day, like I have a lot of things that I want to try, but at the end of the day, like if I just have a bunch of things that are half started and I don't ever finish a full book, like if I don't ever fully like become an author, if I don't ever like write like fully shoot a short film and all these things, like then how am I ever like gonna really know how good I was? How am I like, and like I'm competitive in that aspect. Not saying that I think like if I was to do something it would be the best. Right. But I think like you need to put in the reps.
It'd be your best.
No. I mean
if you put in the reps and with time.
Even this, like
ultimately you're aiming for your best.
Even this, like we're having a conversation, right? Yeah. On a podcast. Yeah. And I lost my train of thought mid conversation. Yeah. Right, which happens to a lot of people. Oh yeah, happens to me all the time.
Like 5 times so far.
I'm always on a tangent, right? Yeah. My mind's running a million miles an hour.
Same, yeah.
But that's not. I wouldn't say that's professional. Like that's not what a good podcaster should be doing. So
I think it's actually crucial for a podcaster to have that kind of mind. But I think he should be able to like solidify his technique on how he's able to organize those thoughts and be able to deliver them and have a solid conversation that's flowy and there's no kind of bumps or hips and you guys are just going topic by topic. And again, I'm not saying your podcast is super shitty and I think they're great, but like that's something again with repetitions, with quality you get with quantity you get the quality. Yeah. So yeah, I mean with anything, and I to get on what you were saying, I feel like I get to that point too, especially now. I'm like to think of myself as like a jack of all trade, master of none, where like I've tried a bunch of stuff and I've gotten pretty far in certain places, but for some reason, sometimes it just like, I don't keep going. And whatever the reason may be, like I try not to hold that against myself. Like you didn't finish that now, like, and it's a shame because who would have known that potential? Sure. But if not, like if you have to force it, then we're talking about a whole nother thing. Like, I don't think you should ever force something just because you think like you could be whatever. And I'm not saying you in specific. I'm just talking in general. Yeah. Like if you're doing something out of spite
where it becomes work,
right? Or just again, it's a pain to do, and you're like pushing yourself. And that's where I kind of like back off from. Like especially like with the music, there was a lot of times where I was like first got into my stuff and started recording a bunch of stuff, and I was like, man, I gotta put this together, start editing and this and that. And then I got down to the grits and the hard work of it. And I was like, maybe not. I enjoy playing music. I love doing it live and being in the moment. But that other aspect, I didn't realize that came with this and that. Yeah. And then like we talked about, that you don't know until you try. Like anything. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing like eating when you're young. Like you grow, you start, broccoli's okay, tomatoes okay. You try these things, but
you won't know until you try everything.
Right. And then there's also the educational part behind it. It's like, well, why are you doing what you do? What benefit does it serve? You know what I mean? Or if it doesn't serve one, well, why are you doing it in a sense? Like same thing with the music. Like I'm killing myself to put something together and to like make it organized. But why? You know what I mean? Like for someone else to listen to it. Like this is great how I'm listening to it right now. I mean, it's good enough for me. I'll keep it this way. You know what I mean? I don't need to put myself through this, what I see as stress, because it's not what I really want to do. It's just to meet a quota for something else that ties into being an artist. You know what I mean? Like when I get back into like identifying with a label, like just because I make music doesn't mean I'm some artist head or some And just because I'm I'm not a climber. And just because I'm this skin tone or I speak Spanish, clearly Hispanic, Latino, whatever. But you like certain things you really shouldn't be identifying yourself with because ultimately I think it does put limits. But I do agree to the point, like you said, once you find that thing, narrow that sight down, man, and really dig deep and drive home and make sure the people around you are on the same page where it's like, I don't want you to tell me what you think about it. I want you to listen, hear me out, and support me when I need it. Like, I have some friends who choose career paths, and I'm like, that's clearly what you want to do completely. But like, I would never do that, and I don't see myself doing that. And I kind of have struggles understanding where you're coming from. But I'm going to sit there and let him speak and let him try to explain it to me so that eventually I can get a better understanding and a better grasp to the point where I can put myself in his shoes and understand, like, he's clearly doing that because he loves it. And I can disagree with it, but like, you know, he loves it. Like, why would I try to break that down from someone, especially a friend of mine, when that's something I should be like, you know what? I need to be on that wave. I need to be in love with what he's doing the same way with whatever I want to do. And I think, like I talked about, having those people that ground you and like give you those checks, like those are the best people to keep around, whether family or friends, man.
So you kind of mentioned education, and we're talking about art and whatnot. And there's a lot of people that think education needs to be a lot more...
Educación.
Yeah. But it needs to be a lot different, a lot more flexible, right? And in the same aspect, there's also arguments that there's not enough STEM, the things that are the building blocks of society,
I would agree,
of
man.
Innovation. But there's also, and then the third, there's the idea that in reality, learning STEM is a gateway into art.
Science, technology. Is that what it stands for?
Science, technology. What is it? English?
I don't know. But it's that general education.
And then math.
English and math, probably.
I think it's...
I agree that our education system, like we just talked about when we were talking about college, is...
That's how uneducated we fucking
Yeah, clearly. But like going back to like what college really like... Go ahead.
Do not take any fucking educational advice.
Do not take any advice from us. We're clearly not educated. But ultimately, what I think, like again, that education does to you is it domesticates you and puts you into this cookie cutter shape that makes you the perfect citizen and a great worker. But going back into like earlier childhood education and development, like I worked before I was working at the bar I work at now. I worked for a few months at a swim school with kids. And I currently teach, like on a part-time thing, kids how to goalkeeping in soccer on the sides on the weekends. And that's real fun. And I also do really enjoy working with kids. I love that aspect, seeing their lights glow up and being able to pass that torch down and have them, and then branch off with their own thing. Like, wow, I never thought about that, but that's actually really cool. Especially watching kids, like as I'm coaching them in goalkeeping right now, and like how excited they are to show up to practice, and when they make a save, they're going crazy. When I make a save, they're like, wow, this is goal, what's crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going back to that education, I think we should definitely be teaching kids things that are like when you're, I mean, like first, I don't know, like 3 years of school, yeah, you need to learn how to, you know, add, subtract, alphabet, grammar, all the little things. But like ultimately, you need to be teaching kids how to form relationships, and after forming them, how to maintain one. Whether it's, again, they're still young, so you probably focus on like, you know, who's your friend? How do you know they're your friend? How much do you love your mom? You know, what's your, getting down into like kind of stimulating that little mind, starting to think in the right direction of, you know, family, relationship, health, and fitness and eating and things like a lot of kids, you know, like at least growing up with me, it's like, you know, plates of broccoli and tomatoes, you're like, eat it. You're like, I don't want it. It's good for you. Eat it. And that's all you have is good for you. And but if you sit down and you tell a kid, and, you know, and this is what I want to have hopes for in my future. Like I again, super huge into like fitness and wellness, and I want to be 90, you know, climbing rocks and still doing is what I can do now. Again, who knows what'll happen? Maybe I'm dead at 40, but that's my hopes. And in that hopes is being able to pass that education on to my kids as well. Is like, look, man, I the things I can do at this point is because of how I've fueled this meat vehicle I've had. And, you know, it's super cool to see, you know, dad and how you know how fast he is, or look how strong he is, or whatever. You know, the kids, like when I was little and I saw like these athletes, you know, like especially the soccer ones, I'm like, man. And you get those guys who comes in and they tell you about, you know, what you should be eating, and those things really stuck with me. It's like, if you give kids the reason why, you know, like eat the broccoli or the banana, because the potassium is going to make sure that you don't cramp up as often. So when you're going out and you're playing with your friends on the field, you're the best player. And like, I want to be the best player on that basketball court, and they'll start eating their bananas. Or you just give them that initiative, that why, you educate them on how it'll be beneficial for you in the long run. Then they start to give into it. But when you really like, kids, just do it because I say so, or this is what good boys do. You know, it's not. It's that I think that's what forms that rebellious nature. Yeah, well, one or the other. You get a kid who either rejects everything and does his own thing and becomes, you know, outlier in the society, or you get a kid who's, you know, follows everything, never has an idea for himself.
It's kind of funny because like you really see that like so clearly. Like
you can tell how someone was raised if you just hang out with them for a little
literally
bit.
I remember obviously at the time I didn't realize it, but like and again, like I had a good grades in school, I would say. But I was a terrible student. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would hate to have had me in the class. Like, I would be talking 24/7. Like as soon as I could, I was leaving school. You know, like just things like that. It's like I would be sleeping, I'm not paying attention because I was just capturing it naturally, right?
Right.
And it's like it was just me naturally rebelling from the whole idea
the constant
of
you
like
need to be this.
Exactly. Just do this.
Yeah.
Follow this. Do this. Like be here. And it's like, and me asking why, but no one
gives you a good answer.
No, nobody. Yeah. In fact, they don't even try to give you an answer. Don't. So naturally,
well, it's because they don't know, and they were in the situation you were in too, and they went with it. So now it's your turn. Same reason why parents put things on you, and the same reason parents want you to be this because they didn't. And you know how important it is to be. How well it can help you move up in the hierarchy of what we call society nowadays. So you got to do it, you know. But it's like. What at least what I'm living on, why it's like I feel like I'm so open-minded, whatever maybe I'm on that, I feel like a wave where it's like I don't want to kind of conform to what we call like a successful life or the American dream or anything like that. Like if my American dream is having nothing to eat but black beans, cuajada and tortillas, bro, like, and then having somewhere to go climb and having a bed and a house and have a family, someone to talk to, books to read, like that's all you need. Like you define your version of success on what makes you want to wake up in the morning. And I think that's what being successful is, when you wake up and you're like so happy to get out of bed, get your bed ready, you clean it up, you're ready for that exciting day because you're doing what you want. You know what I mean? And again, when you're not questioning things. And I think that's one reason I lost a lot of interest in religion. I don't know if you know this, but when I was younger, all of middle school and some of the first year of high school, I church a lot. So my dad took us to the Mormon church.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
You're a Mormon?
I was Mormon. I got baptized at 14. Yeah, man, I got baptized at 14 by my own choice. Still a good kid. I wasn't really crazy. And then I started getting older. You know, girls are cute, but you can't date. You know, and I was, really? Talking with you can, but there's those rules, save yourself for marriage, and everyone has their opinions on that stuff, and that's whatever you may want it to be. I say enjoy yourself, but it comes back to that same point where I'm asking you why, but you can't give me a sound, like logical explanation. All you're saying is you won't go to heaven. And it's like, is it that much fun up there? How do you know? I don't think, you know what I mean? It's
Send me to where my friends
are. Exactly. And it's those things where it's like, I've got a lot of your life when you're young. There's a lot of people telling you to do things, and you can either fall in line and do it and then be unhappy eventually, or happy, or you can not do it and be happy or unhappy. I mean, it can go any way, but I think the more you challenge what you're being told constantly and wait for that, like you do your research, you don't just say yes, sir, and bow your head and do whatever anyone says, because then you're just being used by everyone. And that's why I don't think you should have yes men in your crew or the people you hang out with, because they're never really like allowing you to be yourself, or never pushing you to be yourself, or never pushing you to question anything, or like, I mean, just in general, like,
Yeah. Have you heard of like what Elon Musk is doing for his kids, about how he's
the school he made?
Yeah, exactly.
With his wife. I think that's beautiful. I've always thought about that idea. Is like, man, how could, like, and I don't know if I told you, but I'm considering like getting into teaching and like substitute teaching and maybe even like full-time teaching in the future. You got to go back to school and a bunch of stuff, but it's one of those things where, I mean, I think I think it's really great. I mean, like I said, bringing back that traditional education and
well, even like, I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
Like, even if you look at like the education system right now, like what is it in reality? You're just memorizing. It's memorization 100%. For most part.
What is standardized testing?
Exactly, because it's like, okay, what do you do when you have this? You use this equation and you apply this. Yeah. Let's say science. What do you do in this? You memorize, okay, this is the answer. This is, instead of teaching kids, it's like, okay, not memorize things that might be useful, most probably won't be useful. Teaching kids, how do you solve
critical
issue?
Thinking?
Exactly. Maybe. How do you find the answer to something? Which is such a relevant question today. With like, all right, we have the most.
It's universal, man.
Literally, we have the most amount of knowledge, so accessible to everyone's hands.
It's so stupid.
Yet we don't know how to access it.
Yeah.
Why are we teaching kids certain equations when in reality, just say, how do you find out when you need a certain equation, and how do you find that equation, and how do you learn quickly? How do you like? I learned coding like over the past couple of years, right? And getting into tech, and one of the biggest lessons that I learned was not like let's say I started with JavaScript, and it wasn't, oh, I learned JavaScript.
Right.
I learned how to learn.
Right.
That was the main thing I learned. And they kind of told us that, like, without saying, they were like, what you learn here isn't going to be, it's probably not going to be useful to you in your job, but you're going to know the foundations to how to learn the languages when you do get to a job.
Right. Yeah.
And really, like, once I left, I realized, I was like, wow, that's actually
super
the biggest. It's the biggest key. And it made me realize, I'm like, wow, this is actually one of the most important things in life in general.
True. And yeah, man.
Because
I
like,
don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
With school and stuff, the same thing is like, again, it's like book smart or street smart. Like if you're book smart, you're always going by the agenda, and sometimes life doesn't play out, you know, point by point. It doesn't, you know, and that's where critical thinking comes into play. Especially, I mean, my experience. I mean, you can go into things like climbing. You know what I mean? Like, it's how well you can think out as your fingers are painfully falling apart, and how you're out of breath, and at the same time you're about 10 feet up, and you're like, if I fall, I might die. But can you focus here now and think about the next move instead of all the things going wrong? Think about the next move and go move by move, step by step. And that, again, universal. You can take that anywhere. And that's where critical thinking, I think, comes in. Like, man, it's the bread and butter for whatever you do in life. I mean, if, like, especially like just in the workforce, I mean, in specific, like I do bartending and stuff like that. But in that sense, if you have someone who just goes by the book at the bar, they might not be the best bartender. But if you have someone who can handle any kind of situation, no matter what's thrown at him, and make the guests happy, even if it seems like they're completely,
you fuck up the drink,
you messed everything up, but they're just happy because of the way you handled it and how you're able to, all those things. That's what's more important, is being able to be quick on your feet, witty, calm, cool, collective. You know what I mean? And that's the stuff I don't think that's, again, we're taught enough about. And like I said, you're not given chances as a young child, especially now. I mean, in the country we live in, it's kind of scary. There's shootings here, there's shootings there, there's stabbings here. I have to protect my child. I can't take him out into this crazy scary world. But eventually that scary world comes knocking on the door eventually, sooner than later. And that boy or that little girl has to go. And you have to be, and it's so much easier when you start young, I feel like. And I'm no parent. I really don't have any, like, other than like watching my siblings and friends and all of us grow up and witnessing. It's honestly like a personal view. You've got to start young with these kids, man. Like we were talking about earlier, is you have to put them in those situations, because eventually they will be. And what happens when I don't have mommy? I can't just call my mom for everything. I can't just call my dad. They have their own things. I can't, like, I could call myself. But all they can do is listen. And ultimately that's what you can do for yourself too. And that's why I think I'm super, like, I think when I was young, I had a lot of times where I was left alone, and I've had to deal with a lot of stuff on my own. Nothing crazy. Again, I haven't had the worst childhood, but little minor inconveniences and things. And I think being put in sports a lot, where you kind of, like, in specific swimming, you're on your own in that lane, and it's up to you to beat those guys, and you don't have mom or dad.
I forgot you were a swimmer.
Yeah, man, 6 years. I love it. And I coached the swimming for about a year and a half too at the swim school.
They called you the butterfly, right?
The butterfly.
No, I remember.
They called me the floating rock.
Yeah.
I was pretty good though. I went to the Junior Olympics. But, in any way, it's like, eventually aiding someone and being of service to them becomes a crutch. In a sense, over time, you disable them and you put them in that wheelchair because of how much love you think you were giving them. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm giving them what they need. They need my support, and I'm here for them. I'll make sure they have their food. But you're just becoming a crutch. You're not allowing them to suffer. You're not allowing them to, like, take that stance. Like, man, I need to get my shit together. Like, I can't rely on this guy all the time. I can't rely on her. Like, you have to. I think as we're getting older, and again, it's a lot easier when you're starting this at like 13, 12. We mow the lawn every weekend, not because you're getting paid for it, because it has to be mowed, or your parents have you on this. I mean, sports does it. Just discipline in general needs to be taught at such a young age. And then, just like we talked about, back to what Elon Musk is doing. I think it's like it's a trend that's coming, and I think people are becoming more aware of it. And I would even think maybe like a hot take is like homeschooling for my kids when I have kids, at least for like the first.
I mean, that's the practical.
Or not even homeschool.
No, that is the practical way of going about it.
It is, but you also like got to consider like you learn in the social world of being human when it comes to being important. Correct. Like imagine if you were homeschooled, like when you meet someone, you know what I mean?
So, but
compared
that's where
to someone who knows what it's like.
If you're homeschooled, then you need something that gives you that aspect of social interaction. Right. Because clearly he didn't agree with what was being taught at schools. He's like, it's not conducive to having the smartest person possible.
Sure.
Right? Or most successful. So he said, I think this is what makes the most successful person.
Right. And this is what I'll do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clearly, he has the money to make
right. Yeah, he can do that. But I can't just build the school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The practical solution for that, for a regular person who homeschool. You get what I'm saying? Especially,
but again,
especially
pros
now,
and cons to everything, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's no perfect answer. But
no, never.
But that's where sports come in, extracurricular activities, community centers, these things. And of course, like, it's not, and they're not everywhere and they might not be the best, but like, you have to find a way to get these aspects of life that are necessary.
Completely agreed. And this is where I talked about him already once. Bruce Lee, a lot of love for the guy. I mean, like, you have to take the good and bad from everything, pick and choose. Like, not everything in public schooling is bad. Like we talked about, you get that social aspect. If you, like I said, like you were saying, people take certain things certain ways depending on how you become. So that kind of environment might breed someone and enhance their social skills. While the reverse might make someone so shy that they never want to, and they become so socially anxious that they don't want to talk to, and they can't be in a room full of 3 people. You know what I mean? And there's just so many ways things can go. And I think you as an adult, as a parent, know your child the best, at least roughly. You know what I mean? You know yourself, you know your partner. You can get a good like estimate of what this kid's going to come out like. So you have to be able to, and it's a full-time job raising a kid and having kids. And I think unfortunately with the type of day we live in nowadays, I think the value of life has gone down in a sense. Is like, we don't like, what is it when you like think about having a child, bro? Like, I think it's just a thing nowadays. Like, people just, having kids. No, that's what happens when you don't wrap it up, kids, but it's like, there's so much more into having a child. You're bringing a life in. And like Malik talked about, we're kind of like computers that get this down. Like compare, like when the child is first born, you compare it to like buying that first iPhone. You go into the shop, AT&T, you open it out the box. You have to go through all that stuff to set it up first. It's an iPhone, but it doesn't do what an iPhone does yet, because it still needs all that programming and all that stuff. So there's no pictures, there's no messages, there's nothing saved on it. Same thing like a hard drive, same thing like the mind. And when you're young, what you are exposed to those first 4 years, that's the fundamental building blocks of development in a child. So if he's just around, like my little brother, if he's just around constant arguments between the family, he's going to become more aggressive as he gets older. Depending on the kid. I feel like my parents argued a lot, but I tend to be more like crybaby. So I'm more of like a lover than a fighter. But some kids end up becoming a fighter because of that. Or some kids, it can go anywhere. But those first 4 years are super, super, super fundamental. And that's why I think like the education needs to be some like, whether we need to, get into more, what are those? I don't know.
Something needs to change.
Right. And how that comes along, I don't know. I don't have the answers for anything, but I do think it needs to be changed. And it like I said, it's situational. Like, cause again, your kid, your family, what your values are too. So you have to be able to I think, and my dad said this, well, he didn't go to school. He dropped out at 3rd grade. He didn't really get much education. He said, God and nature were his teachers. And I think that's really, 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 like, that hit home. It's like, you're always learning. Like, this is a classroom right now. I'm learning about what you've done these past couple of years and what brought you to us sitting in front of these cameras. And now I'm learning more about myself and talking about things about myself. Like, maybe I do feel more about this way. Maybe talking about it now, I don't really feel that way anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you're always constantly learning. So you have to keep that, like I said, keep your mouth shut, ears open and eyes open. Always be absorbing things. And then again, picking and choosing. You want to take all the bad stuff in. You got to take the good stuff in and learn from the bad. But I mean, it starts super young. So like those, again, like I really think that I jumped a lot here, but I don't think we, again, value what it is to really start a family and have kids and bring a life into this world, or we don't take it as serious as we should. And there definitely needs to be something that changes when it comes to education, at least in like, maybe high school and stuff can stay the same, but like elementary, I think it needs some work. It's interesting, but I have no answers for you. I'm not
one thing for sure though, if we were to come as a society to a conclusion, to a better solution, or let's say a better education system, one thing for sure, it starts with the conversation.
Agreed. And you have to talk about it.
Exactly. It starts with ideas
like this. Yeah, man.
Fully.
Yeah.
And that might sound cliche,
so
but
much you doing this.
Thank you.
You have to get ideas out. And someone like me, like you might see me walking on the street and it's like, just some other bum with long hair, this asshole, whatever it may be. But you don't know what's inside here, all these ideas brewing, and that's for everyone in the world. I'm not so special. I don't think I have those great ideas. I don't think I'm this amazing person that everyone should be envying and following. I mean, there's so many more people better than me out there with better ideas, a better discipline, and a better way of living life. You just have to get those voices out.
But you don't know how exactly. You don't know where the solution comes from or the better. Like maybe somebody hears what you said, right? And your idea isn't good. And they hear something I said. And my idea by itself isn't good. But maybe a combination of unison, that, and somebody else is able to extrapolate that from
build upon it.
Literally. Yeah, so it really comes down to these things of sharing and
agree and looking past yourself. Like I talked about, you know, there's planting those trees that you'll never sit in the shade of. That kind of thing is like it hits home. Like you have to do things in respect to who comes and who follows, whether it's generational wealth or just passing on knowledge or just living by examples to make a better world. Yeah. In my opinion, I mean, like, I'm not no like perfect person, but I do think there's like human decency exists, like common courtesy exists. Being a humble person, that it's real. Like I think it's one of the what's that band called? Jesus, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name right now. But there's these lyrics where it's like it's easy to be, you know, mean and all, but it takes grits to be gentle and kind. Like it really takes a lot. Like and I was talking about with Malik, we do like he's more into the combat sports, but we did a little bit together where it's like, you know, you're sparring in Muay Thai. Where like I got like a year under my belt and I'm, you know, sparring with these guys who just started in a month, and you know, I could all these things you could do to them, but why? They're learning. Like you want to teach them, hey man, be careful when you put your leg up because watch this. And like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Like, you know, you instead of being this guy like, watch me beat his ass real quick because I know so much more. You have to like pass on that and remember, like too, like I was there too. I remember going to my first Muay Thai practice and getting my shit kicked out of me, like getting beat up and like, damn, that is humbling. You know what I mean? I want to be able to do that to the next person that comes. So then I took that role, and kind of going that and like. And Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, and that's another guy I don't think I've mentioned yet who's really huge influence on me a lot in the past recent years.
He as well.
You know Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Great. His books are amazing. I definitely recommend you read them. But he talks about becoming a beast, right? Becoming that animal, and then knowing how to control it.
Yeah.
Like you have to. It's like I'd rather be a guardian a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And absolutely. And it's beautiful, man. You have to be that. And that's part of being a man too. You know what I mean? Being able to defend the people you love and being able to stand up for what you believe in, and also defend yourself and your home and all those other things, while also being able to
be that
nurturing father. Exactly. Or watch over and be loving and be able to stoop down to the level of whoever's in pain and be able to understand their pain and have, you know, empathy and all those things and be able to connect while at the same time having to be able to turn on that trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what shit needs to get done, I'll go do it. You know what I mean?
Fully.
And again, I'm not no perfect man. There's some things I'm working on as well. So don't try to think, you know, like I've had it all done. This is just, again, personal opinion and everything. But there's definitely something to be said to being that beast and then being able to control it, because it's just so much more powerful that way. And you were talking about it with Nora on the podcast, where it's like some guys are going into a room and they have to display their dominance. I'm the alpha here, but some guys walk into a room and just them walking in, everyone's like, this guy must be the shit. Like the way he carries himself, the way he enters, the way he greets everyone like a human, the way he's nice to everyone, the way everyone kind of gravitates towards him. Why do people like listening to him talk and like it's hanging out with him? It's that thing. And it also comes from where? From the heart, when you're doing things that you want to do and being yourself, because people naturally gravitate to that. Not everyone.
No.
You know, because if you're being yourself in hopes of getting friends, you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
You got to be yourself to be yourself and learn.
Facts.
Friends will come. Even sometimes they don't, and you got to be okay with
sometimes that. Being yourself isn't enough. Because
right. And then you don't
some people need to change their mentalities. Some people need to change their habits to be a good friend.
Yeah.
Because how could you have friends if you're not a good friend?
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like vice versa.
Or it goes into that thing too. Like, how can you love someone without loving yourself first?
100%. Or let's say, how could a kid or a young guy, right? And he's genuinely like, he has nothing desirable about him, especially to a female.
It's tough, especially nowadays. Man.
Exactly. And you're like, that's me though. It's like, okay, if you want to have a relationship, if you want to be talking to females and whatnot, then you need to maybe become a person and take on habits of somebody that is a little more desirable. That doesn't mean don't be yourself, but it might mean
in that realm, do
get a little stronger.
Yeah.
Hey, become more confident in yourself. How do you become more confident?
Yeah.
Becoming competent in things.
Yeah. True.
Financial stability.
Yeah. It's a good start, having a job.
All these things. It's like they 100% add to your confidence.
Yeah,
you start all of a sudden, once you start accomplishing some of these things, you're not walking around with your head down and like being scared. You start exactly.
Head goes up.
You start realizing you're like,
confidence.
no, like I'm good, I'm solid. And you start thinking like that. Now all of a sudden you're much more attractive. So sometimes it's even, I don't know, like
it's true, man. It like you said, it's one of those things where like the more you like try to make it happen, like I'm gonna be stronger because it doesn't come to fruition. Yeah. But when you lay back and you do things because it's generally coming out of what you want to do, it just turns a whole other road, and you get people coming up to you, starting conversations. I never thought this person even noticed I existed. Yeah. But now they're talking, you're having conversations, and now they're asking you to go hang out here and there, and then then you have your friends you wanted and all those things. But it starts with, first of all, being there for yourself, because ultimately that's the only person you have at the end of the day, and staying grounded and making sure that you're doing things for the right reason, because it can be tough, especially when it comes into that dating world. I mean, especially I feel like people our age, the dating scene is.
I'm not sure it's worth it right now.
Well, what is it? What is the dating scene we talk about? And I think the same way we don't value like life and starting families and having kids, we also don't value like what a true relationship is in general. Like I get, people have that urge to just sleep around and have, sneaky links or whatever it may be and do that. Like, enjoy your life.
Yeah.
But if your ultimate goal is to be happy and in a relationship with someone that'll last long, like going out every night or on the weekends, every weekend, you're not going to find love there. Like you're not going to find love at a dive bar. And the crowd you're surrounding yourself with that's telling you it's a great idea to go out there, they're probably not having the best of luck on what they think is the real love. You know what I mean? And then you go on this road where you're like doing all these things for what you think you want.
And then you're getting validation from society and your friends.
Yeah, exactly. You get all those things, and that's what like Instagram and all those things are. It's like, just to make sure I'm still hot or whatever. I've got that. Like I've downloaded Tinder and Hinge a couple times, and it's like ultimately it always comes like, what am I doing, man? Like this is ridiculous. I don't need to be putting myself out there like that. And I've come to that point where it's like, it's just not. I wouldn't say relationships aren't worth it nowadays. I just think like trying to go out there and make a relationship happen. I don't know. I have this weird. It's like so foreign to me. I don't think it's like. I don't think that's how like great relationships that last long, that are authentic, are really have like come to fruition. I think those come with like, first you get to understand the person on a human level, be able to like be in the room with them for like an hour and not be like, I should get out of here. Like when you have an actual interest towards someone, I think that's where it's fucked up now. Like whenever, let's say we go out to a bar, right? And I'm with a bunch of my boys and we're like, I heard she's real cute. Yeah. Go do your thing. But like, I'm only choosing to approach her simply based on how attractive she is. Only that. Because of lust.
Which isn't in line with what you're saying.
Right. And what isn't in line with a healthy relationship. Because if you're going for something out of lust, want, desire, it's just like that happiness thing. It's going to end eventually. Because there's going to be that next thing you love, lust, and desire.
If you were to just go based off of ideals and personality and all that, right?
No,
you need to be attractive too.
And that's exactly what I was gonna say. You can't just go and date whoever you want, because clearly, like, attractiveness matters. What's
the difference between somebody that you get along with very well, but you're not attracted, versus somebody that you're attracted to? Somebody's a friend and one's a girlfriend.
Yeah, in a sense.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Because if you get along with somebody, you're just going to be around them, but it's not going to be that.
But you're not attracted to them.
Exactly.
So there's no that like passing that romantic line.
There needs to be that sense of attraction.
But there also needs to be that sense of friendship, because that's what makes the relationship strong. If you're not friends and you can't like, I can't pour my heart out to her and tell her how I really feel and have her listen to me, like, I'm better off being alone and crying to myself in the mirror, because she's just going to use that to my disadvantage, or see me as a weak man or whatever it may be. And I'm not saying I cry to all my girlfriends or whatever it may be, but like, you have to be able to like relate with that person, have common goals, have same interests, have like same ethics and overall kind of ideas of where you guys want to go together. Because ultimately when you start a relationship, I mean, I don't have the best, I'm not someone to give like the best relationship advice. I think over the years I've learned a lot, and where I'm at now, I have a good point of view. But that's, again, a lot of trial and error. So I think ultimately at this point, what I'm looking for is something that's like gonna definitely, like, if I'm gonna start something again, I don't want it to just be another 3 months, 2 years, this, that. Like, I'm open to trying things, and you want to do things, but I think another big jump, but as a society, we want to grow up so quick. You have little kids like in elementary school with boyfriends, girlfriends, left, right. I want to be an adult. I've got an iPhone. They're growing. They have a social media. But that's what I'm saying. They want to be grown so quick. And in that sense, nowadays, we rush into things where we're like married at 22. And unfortunately, not everyone plans to have kids, but you're having kids at a young age. And now they're kind of messed up. And obviously, you're doing your best for the kid, but you can only do so much as someone who just graduated yourself or whatever it may be. And I think those are the end roads and where people end up when you're not consciously going into that romantic life with a solid plan in mind. When you're just going in there to like, I'm here for a good time. You're going to be in for a good time, but you have to be able to deal with those consequences. You know what I mean? You really have to, and it's just me as I'm getting older. You know, when I was younger, it was a different thing. You know what I mean? I don't want a relationship, fuck that. But now as I'm getting older, especially living on my own, like you get to understand like how valuable it is just to have someone who really cares about you at your side and be able to like make you food when you're hungry or like, man, I mean, like you like twist an ankle, you don't realize, damn, I'm pretty useless. But if you had someone there to help take care of you and, you know, massage and like get you through that PT and take you here, take you there, and really in anything, you know, seriously. But you need that support. And in a relationship, it's, again, you have to have a great sex life because you can't have a good relationship without that. I mean, it's just bottom line simple. And you can't have a good relationship if you don't like the person. Like on a level of, like if I can sit, like clearly, I'm sorry, I don't swing that way, but you know, we can have a conversation for 2 hours and I could never go bored talking with you. You know what I mean? It's okay. I hope you don't blame me, but you know what I mean? Like if I can sit and have a conversation with someone for like 3 hours, like, man, that's it's a good sign. You know, you want to be able to, and I think it's kind of weird. Like everyone's like, well, what are you guys? Like, you need it. It's like, what happened to like not going, you know, not hooking up on the first date and kind of like getting to know, feeling out this person. You know what I mean? Getting to, again, depending what your goal is. If your goal is to get laid, then clearly you want to do option A. But if it's not, you want to do the latter and get to know the person. Try to like picture yourselves together and really take them out to places. And like, how does this person treat other people? Like when I go out to eat, how does she talk to the waitress?
I got a question.
How does she tip? How does she talk to her mom when her mom calls on the phone? How does she talk to my mom when I bring her into the house? How does she deal with my problems? And maybe I'll come in with the fake problem too, just to hear what she says. And like, what, is she really out for like my benefit of me, or is she out for whatever, maybe my money, whatever, my looks, whatever it may be? I don't really have either, but you know, just examples.
All right, I got a question. With that, all that being said, right? It's like beautiful ideas and all that.
You're
right?
Just saying
quote
that.
Unquote. Yeah. No. I mean, I think those are your opinions, and I see value in it. And I'm not saying I fully
You don't
agree
share
with
the same thing. I agree. Yeah.
With that being said, I wouldn't say I'm the complete opposite. Like,
no,
just run around.
Fuck.
Yeah, no, not like that.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I'm more of the opinion right now. Like, let's say I'm 24. Huh?
Yeah, I'm turning 24 in like 2 months.
All right. Yeah. So we're young.
Yeah,
we're 4 years old.
3 years old here.
Exactly. So, in my opinion, like I have a lot of ideas and things I want to do, and you know, I see a life I want, and I know what type of life I want to live. I don't see a relationship being conducive or productive for me attaining that right now.
At least right now. Yeah,
not
I
right
agree.
Now, right?
And that's the thing. It's not like, especially at our age, I don't think we should be getting into these committed relationships. I think you should be the same way, and like you use it as your career. And I'm not saying like try different women like they're samples at a bar. No, but you go on dates with some. Obviously, you have respect. You're being a courteous man. You know, you're opening the door, all that good stuff. But you're trying things out and exposing yourself to different people. And even now, like I share the same opinion with you. It's like, I don't really kind of like want a relationship now, but if I'm going to get into one, I don't want it to be like a joke or anything like that. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be taken like half-assed. Like if we're doing something, let's do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just the mentality I'm in right now. But at the same time, like I don't have time to really like, I'm not financially well enough. Like I could be like, you know, and that's the problem with getting to know people. It's tough is starting over with someone, getting back to those what's your favorite color questions and things like that, and then having to like, you know, take them out to fancy dinners and all that. And that's the problem that comes with like what we call dating nowadays. But when you look when you can get past that and get to someone who's like understands you on a human level to the point where it's like we can hang out in your mom's basement and have Doritos and talk about the dumbest shit, but I'm having a blast because I'm with you. That's the kind of person you want to go for, compared to someone who's like, you don't have your own apartment, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have a credit card, we can't go here, but we went last weekend. And it's like, that's why we can't go again. It's like, I don't have that much money, you know what I mean? And, but it's those things where you really, 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 I think at least for me, you at this point, I feel like when you're 20s, like, get to know people. Don't get too serious. I mean, if you feel the same way and they feel that way for you, do what you got to do. But like, don't get so committed on like, this has to work. And if I'm not married to them, like, I can't, my life can't work. I don't know. I feel a lot of way about relationships and love, but and I'm sorry if I'm not putting it down in like a clear way. I'm probably just rambling and people are like, what the fuck is this guy saying? But
maybe a little. I don't know. But
who hopes? I mean, who knows?
And this might be like, you don't have to answer this, but like, when you meet somebody, let's say you find somebody attractive right now and you're like, oh, like, I want to talk to her, right? Are you going in with that idea of like, I want to get to know you? Yeah. Or more of like casual stuff? No. So because let's say I'm going out, right, and I notice a girl. If you notice a girl 9 times out of the guy, it's because she's attractive. Right? Yeah. Now the next step is what you do after that, and I've come to that point where it's like, one, I'm really like not that good at talking to women, so like I don't have like this is the pickup line I use all the time. Like, I don't really go out of my way to pick up women because. One, it's a little weird nowadays because apparently, you know, all men are trash, and again, not everyone says that, but that's just, you know, what you hear often. So it's like, I also don't want to like inconvenient her. Like, maybe she's out having a good time with her girlfriends, and like me coming on, like, she's probably just you don't know. So like, I overthink a lot. So sometimes I usually don't go hit on a girl, but if I'm going to, especially now, it's more of like, let me get to know her first. Like, it'd be nice to like, I mean, sex is nice. It's fun. It's really fun. But that's not everything. You know what I mean? That doesn't make the whole relationship. So at this point, what I'm trying to make sure is like, I get to know the person first. And it's all situational too. You know, I'm not some freaking saint that's like only saving myself for Christ. Like, you know, in my past, I've had like, you know, we call it friends with benefits, whatever you want to call it. But it's all like, and get back to the original point, like, you're doing things because you want, you know what I mean? And as long as you're on the same understanding as the other individual, I think it's really situational. Like, if you meet someone who's super down to earth, same position I'm in, but just doesn't want a relationship either, but they obviously want to hang out and like enjoy time together, like, yeah, you can do, like, we don't always have to title everything and identify with we are together. Like, I mean, yeah, I will be loyal to you, but we don't have to like post our 3-year anniversary or 3-month anniversary, 32nd anniversary with my babe. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do that. I think it's so high school. 4 minutes. I don't like. I know it's been 4 minutes, girl. I'm already tired of your ass. But you know what I mean? It's just like, there's a lot of things that I don't know. I feel like I have a weird view on this stuff. Yeah. But, I mean, if I'm meeting a girl, to get back to your question, especially nowadays, yeah, I kind of want to get to know her. I'm not like, unless I know you already, and then we're like, drunk and things happen. But ultimately, I'm not like going out for that kind of stuff. It's definitely like trying to get to the person. I feel you. No. And I don't even go out that often. So, I've been single for the last 4 years. So like, I don't think anyone should be listening to me on like relationships and stuff. Although if you hear something nice, I got you. But that's fair. That's fair. Well, with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Hell yeah, man. Although, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
I will say, I think you had a lot to talk about. And so at another point, we will definitely have you back on. We can continue another conversation and,
Yeah, man. Well, first, before we end, thanks again for having me. I think it's super tight what you're doing. Again, giving voices out and like expressing yourself in general. Like, more people should hop on that trend. You don't start a podcast, do what you got to do. But hats off, brother. I respect it. And it's motivating.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.